Rob Brown Show. Get robbed. Only on
The Fan Upstate.
What a weekend in sports, dudes and dudettes. What a weekend in sports. It was spectacular from Friday morning until today. We had the Ryder Cup, which went from the most electrified I have been about a golf event in a very long time to the United States getting thrashed Friday and Saturday to the verge of the most unpredictable and awesome comeback in a sporting event I've seen in years to a loss. We have to get into that because it wasn't just an incredible golf event out of the gate, which then turned into a complete and total embarrassment for Friday and Saturday, and then turned into on Sunday. I don't use the expression often because, like many words, that was awesome, that was breathtaking, they're usually not. So I don't use this expression very often. But I found myself yesterday afternoon quite literally on the edge of my seat. Like, made it a point to point out to the boys that I was in a group chat with yesterday as we were watching what I had hoped was going to finish as the most improbable upset come from behind rally that I have maybe ever seen in sports. I texted them at one point, I am sitting quite literally on the edge of my seat right now. We've got to talk about that. The AP Top 25 is out after a wild weekend in sports, in college football. We had Alabama, that team that was dead because of Kalen DeBoer. Well, they went up to Athens and beat Georgia's ass. I feel like that means something. We had the Oregon Ducks, that team that was going to get smoked because the whiteout went into Penn State and put it on the Nittany Lions. Hey, remember that LSU team that I said was overrated and I thought we jumped the gun after the win on Clemson? Well, old Lane Kiffin put it on the Tigers of Baton Rouge there in Oxford, Mississippi. We've got to go into that. By the way, Rob Brown did not listen to Rob Brown, and Rob Brown is very, very upset about it. But had you listened to Rob Brown and put down the upset parlay on Ole Miss, on Alabama, and on Oregon, you would have made a lot of money this weekend. I didn't do that, despite the fact that I told myself to do that. But if you did, you would have made a lot of money. We've got to talk about the weekend that was in college football, in the National Football League. Ladies and gentlemen, I hesitate on Well Actually Monday, this and all of our Well Actually Mondays. I hesitate to knee-jerk react. I think the Ravens Super Bowl window is closed. And I think the Chiefs is wide ass open.
Maybe. Yeah. What a difference a player makes.
I would agree with you, great one. As Lamar Jackson exits that game with an apparent hamstring injury, we're waiting to find out details. Unless you have on your well-fitted aluminum foil, tinfoil cap, and believe that perhaps Lamar either elected to bench himself.
I believe it was Jim and Tony who were trying to find the injury. and they could not figure out where he got hurt in the last play when he went to sit down. I personally, I believe he got benched, but and if he took himself out, that's not good. I guess in the NFL, it's no, it's not.
No, it's not, because we, to this day, have never let up on on
Richardson.
Anthony Richardson. Yeah, I had it right. What am I doing?
You did.
Anthony Richardson for checking himself out of a game. Now, I do want to be very clear.
There's a difference between the two players, but still, it's the same thing. You can't do that.
Not even that. I do want to be very clear. I am not saying that it happened. And hamstring injuries, really any lower extremity injury, they may not be diagnosable by sight. Just because I don't see, there's where he got hurt, doesn't mean he didn't. I don't know. Here's what I do know. I don't know that it would have mattered, because the Baltimore Ravens defense, as of this morning, is the worst defense in the National Football League. Caveat, they were missing 4 starters in this game. However,
and they lost more as the game went on.
That is correct. They lost more in the game, but they went into the game missing 4. I believe they lost, 2 or 3 in that game. So you are looking at more than half of the Ravens defense that was out against the Kansas City Chiefs. However, even if I give them credit for that, that was a football team that looked deflated and defeated in a game that they entered at 1-3, with everyone that watches and evaluates the National Football League saying, if the Ravens start at 1-3, and saying the same thing about Kansas City, if this team comes out of this game 1-3, even though both of these teams have faced a, for what it's worth, juggernaut of an opening 17% of the schedule, 1-3 is a bad look. And I don't remember what the statistic was, but somebody put up the stat of how many NFL teams start 1-3 and make the playoffs, and it's not many.
I'm pretty sure it was 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I recall.
I know you can count it on one hand. You may be able to count it on one finger. How many teams make the playoffs after beginning 1-3? And we're going to get to that later. But we've got to talk about that game, because goodness gracious. Did the Packers have me fooled? Because after 2 weeks, I was like, NFC's on notice. This team is a juggernaut.
Yeah,
and then last week they lost. Last week they lost to Cleveland. Last night, every opportunity in the world to go win one for the Gipper, and by the Gipper I mean Micah Parsons. And not only did they not, but they just kept giving gifts to the Dallas guy. How do you allow Dallas to put 14 points on the board in 32 seconds to end a half that it looked like you were ready to run away with it? And instead, you take you don't take an L, you take a tie.
I know,
but a tie feels like an L.
Insensitive, but come on, play till there's a winner. Come on.
Why is it? I don't think that's insensitive.
Well, it is, because, the players have been playing. You don't want to see anyone get hurt. Yeah, I empty your bench. Let's put second, third teamers out there. Let's bring someone off the practice squad and throw them out there if you're worried about your players, and let's have a winner.
Yeah, I'm fine with a draw.
Yeah.
I'm fine with a tie.
I wonder why.
Listen, you had 2 football teams that went out there and played 75 minutes of full speed National Football League quality football. I don't have an issue with the tie. What I have an issue with is why we had a tie.
Yeah, later on, I will text Cole Bryson, noted Dallas Cowboys fan. I don't want to do it right now. I don't think he's up yet, and ask him how he feels about a tie.
I got to think last night, all things considered, you got to be pretty happy about it. I think you've got to be pretty happy about it. So the NFL was bananas yesterday, and we're going to get into the National Football League with 2 Monday Night Football games on tap for this evening. But it was a wild sports weekend, and we are going to get into all of it. I want to start with one thing that happened on Friday night, however. The Florida State Seminoles, who I think were overrated at number 8, although I would like to go back to Friday for just uno momento, por favor. Because Rob Brown knows ball. And I pointed out on Friday, I think LSU's going down to Ole Miss. Check. I think Bama can go into Athens and get the win over Georgia. Check. I think the Oregon Ducks can absolutely go to Penn State. And while I do think Penn State's a different squad this year, I think you are all underappreciating how good this young cat by the name of Dante Moore is that the Oregon Ducks have found. I think the Ducks can go into Happy Valley and get the win over the Nittany Lions. Check. And the other game on Friday that I specifically called out and said, if you're looking for upsets, turn your eyes to Charlottesville, Virginia, because Tony Elliott's Cavaliers ain't no joke offensively. This team's good. And Florida State is not a bad team. I do not think they are quite back if we're talking about national championship ready. I think they're competitive in the ACC, and compared to last year, huge step in the right direction. But watch out for the Virginia Cavaliers, because I think an upset is brewing in Charlottesville. We're going to talk about that game. However, it is exceptionally rare that one moment changes my perspective on something. And I do have to point out that my perspective was changed, though not 180 degrees, I'd say like 90 degrees, on the topic of storming the field. If you did not see the end of that Florida State-Virginia game, Florida State able to force overtime in this game. They go to second overtime. Virginia scores. Florida State's got to stick one in the end zone to make it to a third overtime. Thomas Castellanos, because Virginia's defense at that point was absolutely swarming the Florida State defense, chunks one up into the corner. It is picked off to end the game. Have you seen the video of the field storm that the Cavaliers fans did?
Yeah, it's ugly.
It's bad, man. Now, the reason I say my perspective has shifted 90 degrees and not 180 degrees, as someone who has been historically fine with storming the field, Virginia got a special, exemption from that. I think you have to take it away from Virginia. Now, I have not been to Virginia in person, but obviously as somebody who has spent years covering the Atlantic Coast Conference, I have seen their stadium a lot of different ways. And one of the unique things about Virginia Stadium is that their student section, which is just outside of, I believe, the north end zone, does not have a fence or barrier or barricade that separates the fans from the field. It's a hill, much like Clemson's. It's a hill. It's a GA student section, which means that it is first come, first closest to the field serve. So these fans are basically standing to where the net goes up to catch extra points and field goals. And as this game had a buzz about it, because Florida State and Virginia were playing an excellent football game, and as it got to overtime, and as it got to the second overtime, the fans were creeping closer and closer and closer and closer to the field, to the point that by the time that Florida State was down to their ninth life and were throwing up a prayer to the corner of the end zone, the fans were pretty much in the end zone. They were on the out-of-bounds paint in the back of the end zone. And so when Florida State wide receiver Squirrel White, who went to the ground trying to make a miracle happen before he was able to stand up. I don't think it is fair or over the top to address it as thousands of Virginia fans did not just storm the field. Thousands of Virginia fans stampeded the field. I've been watching college football since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, as Grandma Deanie would say. I have been watching college football since I was a cheering. And I've never, and you know what? I'm not even going to say college football. I have been watching sports since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. And I have never seen a field storming quite like that one. I have never seen fans unleashed quite like that. I'm not kidding you when I tell you I was genuinely worried someone was going to die. And you know me, unless it is for the sake of comedy, I do my best not to exaggerate with serious situations. This one was Squirrel White wearing an all-white jersey, pant, helmet combination. They went with the icy whites. Squirrel White, who was on the ground, completely disappeared from the camera. It was pointed at him. He was the central figure of what happened before that moment. And he disappeared under the crowd of Virginia, primarily students, that rushed the field. That can't happen. I am absolutely fine with fans being allowed on the field after a victory. I'm fine with it. Whether it is Clemson's thing where they say stay in your seats until the conclusion of the alma mater and then you're all welcome to come out onto the field and celebrate. Whether it is a traditional field storming, I'm fine with it. But what happened on Friday night cannot be allowed. I am fine with field storming because, as I have pointed out before, I'm not saying it's never happened, but I cannot, off the top of my head, think of or recall a moment where a player has been injured or assaulted. I can think of some moments where some fans have taken a pop, but I have also pointed out, if you're a fan and you enter the field of competition, even if the competition is over, where a bunch of hyper-emotional, uber-competitive athletes have just finished, especially the ones who just took an L. If you get into someone's face, do not be shocked if you take a crack. That's kind of part and parcel with what you are doing. But what happened Friday night at Virginia, even I would say, if that can't be brought under control, that is the type of moment where we have to use the phrase, you've ruined it for everybody. You have ruined it for everybody. Because when I watch multiple Florida State players wearing crispy white unis just completely disappear in a mob, that's dangerous. By the way, last I checked, 19 people injured in that court storming, in that field storming. No issue with a field storm until we get to a spot where away team players on the ground disappear in the crowd. And when we get to a point where 19 people are going to a hospital, and that doesn't even take into consideration the fact that as Florida State quarterback Thomas Castellanos was being escorted off the field, I'm guessing 30 to 40-year-old man ran to find him, and while holding his phone out like an a-hole flip the bird into Thomas Castellanos' face. Had Castellanos reached out and socked that dude in the jaw, I would have contributed to his GoFundMe for his legal defense in that moment. Justified. All right. I just had to get that one off the chest to start the show. We got a lot we got to talk about. Hey, let's dive right into our losers for the weekend. Now, that's a list of teams and players that I have to stand out that took L's. The Carolina Panthers put on perhaps the most embarrassing display of football I've seen out of that football team since I moved here yesterday. And we're talking about it next. I'm Rob Heasel, and so the Rob Brown Show is on your radio. Let's get it. It's the Fan Upstate.
That world.
All right, good morning, Zach. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, everybody else. Stay right there. Live read coming right back. Don't go anywhere. I have been a Dave Canales defender. I have been a Bryce Young defender, probably to a fault, if we have to be honest. Yesterday,
San Andreas fault. I mean, the biggest fault there could be.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yesterday, I think I've jumped off the bandwagon. Yesterday's 42-13 loss to the New England Patriots was in my opinion, biggest embarrassment in the National Football League weekend. And it wasn't that you lost, because another team that I spent the offseason telling you I think is going to be better than anyone's giving them credit for was the New England Patriots. Now, the Pats were coming into that game 1-3. And as Bill Parcells once famously said, you are what your record says you are. They had beat only the woeful Miami Dolphins. They had taken L's to the Raiders, who lost to the Bears yesterday. And by the way, right about the Bears too, hang in there. And they had taken an L to the Steelers. Turns out maybe the Steelers got a little something special going. As Lonzo predicted, DK Metcalf, the D in DK stands for dog, because he was big in Dublin, Ireland yesterday. And we'll talk about that game later. The Patriots are not a bad football team. In fact, I would make the argument that of the teams trending upwards, New England is very much on the top of that list. Carolina came out looking pretty good early in this game. And then, for reasons that I cannot understand, and I know that there were some injuries in this game that impacted the game plan, I'm sure. I know that there were some schemes that New England ran that the Panthers were not prepared for. I watched the All-22 film for an extended amount of time last night because I really wanted to try to get a grasp on what happened with this football team. And what I can tell you on my first glance was this team, and I hang this on the head of Dave Canales, refuses to do what works. This team refuses, when they find something, anything, to stick with that. On the opening drive of this game yesterday, the Carolina Panthers worked with a bunch of misdirection with the football. The first play, they ran the tight end in motion, handed it to him on an end around, brought a crackback block, left the edge rusher unblocked, mainly because you're sprinting the ball carrier past his face. You had your wide receivers out on the outside, just run a 9 route to take DBs with them. It worked like a charm. The rest of that drive, both the run and pass plays, were predicated on creating a world where New England had to find the ball before they could begin to make a play on it. And Carolina, with Chuba, with Rico Dowdle, with a couple of BY passes, they worked the ball down the football field. And I went, this is great. You're taking advantage of a number of things. You're taking advantage of an offensive line advantage over the Patriots' defensive line. You're taking advantage of a young linebacking core for New England. You're taking advantage of the weaknesses on the New England Patriot defense, and you are playing towards something that, at least for this game, you very clearly had a game plan to take advantage of. And Carolina ended the first quarter 7-6, missed the extra point, but you scored a touchdown on the opening drive. And then, for some reason, after that happened, they just didn't go back to that game plan. After that, when you proved empirically that if you make New England find the football before they can make a play on it, your offense will be successful. After that, they just started, I guess, trying to be a boring, we're going to overpower you offense. But no one believes that that's what they are. Even with a good, injured, but still good offensive line, it felt like a game plan was working, and then Carolina just got away from it. I was, to say frustrated, would be an understatement. Because when I am watching what this team is doing work, and when I'm watching this team come out, and I'm not going to say sink a dagger on the first drive, but anybody who has watched football is aware an opening drive touchdown can impact the mentality of the defense that you are playing, provided you take advantage of it. It's a different game, but there's a point to be made here. The New Orleans Saints against the Buffalo Bills yesterday were 15.5-point underdogs in New York. The New Orleans Saints went the length of the football field and punched in a tutty on their opening drive. One of my very dear friends is a Bills fan. And when New Orleans went the length of the field and Kendre Miller looked like Mike Allstott punching in a tutty on a short yardage, he texted me and he said, this game is going to be more interesting than it should be because our defense cracks when we give up an early touchdown. And he called that shot correctly. Buffalo's defense, the rest of that game, never looked like the team that beat Kansas City in Kansas City the week before, or 2 weeks, whatever it was. They look like a different football team after that. Scoring an opening drive touchdown can impact a defense, especially if you come back out on the next drive and not just do it again, but if you come out the next drive and you say, you can't stop what we are about to do. And on drive number 2 and for the rest of the game, Carolina just got away from that game plan. And to this morning, because I watched this game on the All-22 cam, I put Dallas Green Bay last night on the second TV and took my laptop and plugged it into the big TV so that I could watch the All-22 and figure out what happened. And what I can give you, and I've got some other X's and O's critiques as well, but what I could take away from this game was that for some reason, Carolina just quit doing what was working. They decided, yeah, what we did worked, but that's not really what we want to do. And what they wanted to do didn't work. And you would think after not scoring again in the first quarter, maybe after not scoring again in the second quarter, maybe you'd get back to it. They did not. And then there's the defensive side of the football. How y'all going to make Drake May look like Tom Brady out there? How are you going to allow Drake May to make you look that foolish for a defense that last week looked like the damn 85 Bears against the Atlanta Falcons? You came out last night and let Drake May slice you up. And it was predominantly, and I think this is the frustrating thing, it was predominantly dumb stuff. It was missed tackles. It was blown assignments. It was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I cannot fathom what happened or why it happened. It made zero sense to me yesterday what happened with this team. Now, I want to run to a break.
I just want to say really quick.
Yeah.
How embarrassing that was, to the point where, and I usually don't do this, I just stopped watching.
Yeah.
And where it's just, I don't know what the team is doing. They don't look like they're trying. They don't look like they know what they're doing. If it was if it had been consistent the entire year, I still would have walked away. But after doing what they did the week before, it's like, okay, they found something. Maybe they're actually on the right track. And then to take not a step back, but just a fall back. It was horrible.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't fall back. They took an artillery shell to the chest back was what happened yesterday. So when we come back, this is also not something I would ordinarily do. Usually I'll play you a clip or two from a coach's postgame press conference, win or lose, if something jumps out. But I took 20 some odd minutes to listen to Dave Canales' postgame press conference yesterday. And I'm not going to say I'm off the wagon. I'm not going to say that it's time to move on. He's not the guy. I am going to say that the goodwill that I had been harboring for Dave Canales, it died yesterday. Dave Canales now has the red bullseye centered on him because the way he talked in the post-game press conference yesterday was inexplicable. And I'll tell you what I mean when we come back. I'm Rob Heaslonzo. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate.
Real sports talk for real sports fans.
The Fan Upstate
Is the sports voice of you,
Patrick,
the
I am
Upstate
going to
fan.
respond to those things when we come back here in just a minute because I think you are on to a couple of different things there.
Upstate.
I'm Chuck Sanders. Here's the Sports Flash presented by
Y'all stay right there. We'll be right back.
Checkered flag at Kansas State.
on the Rob Brown Show.
Only on the Fan.
The Fan.
Upstate.
We are all in agreement that the Carolina Panthers completely, totally, and thoroughly embarrassed themselves yesterday. It is not that you lost to the New England Patriots. It is how you lost to the New England Patriots. This football team yesterday looked like it, not didn't want to win. It looked like they were actively trying to lose. If you told me that that was week 17 and the team was trying to tank for the number 1 overall draft pick, my response would have been, that was too obvious, guys. Like, at least try to hide that you are trying to tank it a little bit. Don't be so blatant about it, because that is how you would have the ginger hammer fall on your heads. I would like to play you a couple of clips from the Dave Canales press conference after the game. I will play you clips from a press conference from a coach, win or lose, usually oriented around football. The X's and O's, what went right, what went wrong. Sometimes I will do it because the coach gave us his opinion on what went right, what went wrong. And I like to do my best to celebrate when a coach is willing to actually have a discussion versus just speak to us in coach speak or platitudes. I will sometimes do it when a coach does speak in coach speak or in platitudes to point out that you have some level of responsibility and obligation, in my opinion, to tell your fans, here's what I think went wrong, and here's what we'll do to fix it. Dave Canales' press conference yesterday drove me up a wall. And let me explain to you why I feel that way. It was not a super long press conference. With his opening statement and with his questions, it was like maybe 10 minutes. And I watched it once, and then I went back and watched it a second time to make sure that I took away from it what my initial reaction was. And then I went back a third time so that I could pull audio. And here are some of the clips I pulled from it. And as I play them, I want you to see if you hear a common theme. Here was one of the first long-form answers that Dave Canales gave.
You know, this is when it's a full team effort like this, I have to put that on myself. I have to look at how I'm preparing the team, how we're going about our work. I have to look at that and compete to find an edge to get these guys to work together, to focus, so we can get the execution that we're seeing happen in our processes. But this is the only way to work through these things, is to go right back to work, to attack it head on. And, you know, with the guys, you know, I told them in the locker room, like, hey, a loss is a loss. We got to look at this stuff. We got to look in the mirror and figure out who we want to be as a team, so that we can get the execution that we're calling for and that we're looking for.
Okay. All right. There's clip number one. Now, I want to play a couple before we respond to them. Here's the second long form answer that Dave Canales gave us.
I love the effort. I love the way the guys are flying around, and we have to find the balance of being overly aggressive in certain situations and just making sure we're in good position, good leverage to make the play. And again, I have to be able to evaluate that and make sure that we understand that.
All right. There's clip number two. Here's clip number three from what Dave Canales said yesterday in his postgame presser.
I can honestly say that the effort and the energy from our guys is there. It keeps coming back to the execution. I have to look at that myself. Are we putting our guys in the best situation to be successful in every phase? I have to make sure that we have those conversations and that we keep progressing our football forward, to find, I know who our guys are. I know they're not going to quit. I know they're going to continue to punch. They're going to continue to fight all the way through it, but it's not enough. We have to be able to come out and execute for 4 quarters to become the football team that I believe we can become. And the work starts right now. You know, it starts with me. It starts with our coaching staff. The players understand as well. This is not acceptable. And this is something that we have to come together and make sure that we're together on this thing, so we're pushing forward.
So I listened to that 9-10-ish minutes 3 times. And the reaction that I had after listen number 1 was the same reaction that I had after listen number 2 and listen number 3. I'm a big believer of don't have an experience one time and think that you have settled on what your final perspective of it is. Try something 2 or 3 times before you say, okay, this is where I am and this is how I feel or what I think or whatever. I did it 3 times. I listened to that press conference 3 times. And here's the takeaway reaction that I had. And it's not a gut reaction because I did try it 3 times. I have harbored a lot of goodwill for Dave Canales. I thought that for a guy who was placed into a very difficult situation, and I believe taking over as the head coach of the Panthers after the Matt Rule experience went hilariously wrong, after the Frank Reich experience was an absolute abject and entire disaster. Knowing what you have in Dave Tepper as the owner, knowing that you had a new general manager step in, meaning that it was going to be an entire overhaul to every aspect of the operations of the Carolina Panthers. Knowing all of that, it was a tough job. But my guy, you are now a half an off season, a full off season, a full season, and 4 games into a new one. If you are at the point where your team is still not executing, and I don't think that's the only issue with this football team. I think there's a lot of issues with this football team. But if you are this deep into your tenure and you are saying, well, the boys have fight, but they're not executing. That's on you, boss. That's on you. And I don't need any more of the rah, shish, boom, bah, come on team, let's go stuff. That is what I have been saying now to Dabo Swinney this year. I don't need any more of the, we're going to go out there and fight. We're going to go out there and we're going to hit and we're going to fly around and we're going to be the heart and soul. I don't need that anymore. I need to know why it is that with an offensive line that is supposed to be one of the best in football, the New England Patriots were wearing your ass out. I need to know why. And yes, I have not just been, but I have been the staunchest defender of being the staunchest defender of Bryce Young. But I'm at a point watching this game yesterday where I'm going, this dude looks lost. This dude looks lost. And it is absolutely a possibility that everything I've said is just wrong about Bryce Young. And that he just does not have the mentality to be able to be an NFL quarterback. But I also know I go back to the end of last year, and I got 7 games worth of stats and performance that says, yes, he is, which means that something has devolved. Something has stepped back. And maybe it's the offensive line. Maybe we overestimated the run game. Maybe you've just been stacked against 4 elite NFL defenses. You haven't, but whatever it is. I am at the point now where I do not want any more of the, our guys are out there flying around. I love the effort. The heart's there. We're never going to give up. I don't need to know that. I will take some level of that from college football teams. Some level. Because we are talking about 18, 19, 20 through 27-year-old kids. I will take some level of that from a college football team. I have some level of leeway for Dabo Swinney when he says that. I don't like it, but I have understanding. This is a professional football team. You are paid millions, $10 million of dollars to execute. So I do not want another word about how much effort there is. Not another word about how much heart. These guys are never going to start fighting. I don't care if they are fighting when they're going to New England and getting trounced by another football team that, by the way, started their reset at the same time you did. At the same time. Mike Vrabel, this is year one for Mike Vrabel. If I asked you right now today, which of those two teams is closer to the goal? The answer is New England. You know why I wouldn't ask you that? Because anybody who said anything opposite is either dumb or a liar.
Here's the thing. New England is not that good. That's how bad Carolina was.
See, I will disagree with that. I'm not saying they're good. They're not bad.
New England is not that good. They're down in the bottom. I mean, they're not the Titans. They're not the Panthers, but they're down there near the bottom with those teams. But they have, I guess, glimmers of things that are going to be really good. Didn't think he would turn it around in one season. I think, again, this hit so hard because of what they did in Atlanta and then coming out and doing this the very next week.
Lonzo and I were both very much on board with, if you got to replace Hoodie, Vrabel's a good guy to do it with. If you are trying to change the culture of that franchise, which you have to do, because even if the culture was a whole bunch of Super Bowl rings, at the end of the day, if the guys who run a culture leave, the culture has to change. Trying to maintain the culture of people who are no longer there means you're being a copycat. Nobody's going to do Bill and Tom better than Bill and Tom. So it's a culture change. But if you're going to do it, we both thought, why not Vrabel? A guy who we know is a successful football dude. A guy who to this day, look at him now, I believe got a raw deal with the Titans. And a dude who genuinely very much cares about the success of the football franchise that made him Mike Vrabel and that he helped make the Patriots. They are miles further ahead. In 4 games under Dave Canales, miles further ahead of the Panthers right now. And I'm not going to stick it all on Bryce Young or all on a wide receiver crew and also Tedero McMillan or all on a defensive line that could not get to Mac Jones yesterday. I'm not going to stick it on any one group or individual. But it does come down to the head coach at this point. And while I have been a Dave Canales guy, the press conference that he just held, and I suspect it was very much as we thought Dabo may have been doing a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was very much Dave Canales doing what he could do to take the heat off of a bad football team and put it on him. Sure. But here's the thing. I'm not going to give you credit for heaping a problem on you to keep it off the football team when it's your problem to begin with. You're the reason that all of the things that you said to take the heat off your team are true. I got plenty of X's and O's criticism, but everything you said, while you may have said it to keep the heat on you and not on your team, all of the things that you said are true and are on you. This entire press conference, well, I'm proud of the execute, or I'm not proud of the execution, but I'm proud of the effort. I'm not proud of what we did, but I'm proud of how hard we tried. This is the NFL. It's not about trying. It's about improvement. It's about getting better. What's that word that I have brought up over and over about the Panthers, Dave?
To me, this game is about consistency. Can we consistently play good football? And today was not that. Today, the Patriots played excellent football in all 3 phases, beat us that way. And that's when you get that type of a margin of victory, is when you're firing on all cylinders, in all phases. So that's something that we have to look at and make sure we're taking the right steps forward.
Consistency. And I saw consistently pathetic yesterday. The Dave Canales goodwill is gone. It is time to show improvement, or yes, it will be a 2-and-done scenario under Dave Canales. Now, a guy who doesn't need to get it right, he'll get it right on shot number 1, Lonzo's Sports Flash.
time for a more positive story. I think we've got some in here somewhere. Here's your new AP Top 25. The Buckeyes held onto their number 1 spot. That's positive for me. Oregon moved up to 2. Miami is number 3, ahead of Ole Miss, who jumped 13 spots after their win over LSU. Oklahoma moves to number 5 with Texas A&M, Penn State, Indiana, Texas, and Alabama rounding out the top 10. The Atlanta Braves finished their season with a 4-1 win over Pittsburgh. Charlie Morton returned to the Braves for likely his final game in the majors. The win went to Chris Sale, who struck out 9 with just 1 run allowed in 5.2 innings. Atlanta had 6 hits, including a Ronald Acuna Jr. homer. Chase Elliott captured the checkered flag at Kansas yesterday, punching his ticket to the NASCAR playoffs round of 8. Elliott started the second overtime restart in 8th place, but outpaced everyone in the final 2 laps to steal a win from Denny Hamlin by less than a second. Pretty good.
Up to the minute upstate traffic. Morning traffic will start ramping up over the next half hour, but right now, no major congestion across the major corridors. Watch for roadwork zones on I-385 between Woodruff Road and Roper Mountain Road. Also that area, Chick Springs Road and Lotus Court at Highway 29, Wade Hampton. Spartanburg traffic is clean as a whistle right now. From the News Talk 98.9 WORD Traffic Center, I'm Bill Brooks on The Fan, Upstate.
Basketball at the baseball stadium? Don't miss Morgan Square Madness, powered by Ingles on Thursday, October 2nd at its new location, Fifth Third Park. Meet the USC Upstate team, plus music and fun for the whole family. Details at upstatespartans.com/madness.
Mad World Haunted Attraction is now open. Voted one of America's top haunts and number 1 in South Carolina. Mad World is much more than just a haunted house. It's a fall tradition like no other. Experience the ultimate mini golf, axe throwing, carnival games, food, bonfire, roaming characters, and fun for the whole family. Located in Piedmont off I-85, exit 35. Get ready for 15 years of fear at Mad World. Buy your tickets now at madworldattractions.com. That's madworldattractions.com.
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, national debt
an incredible weekend. So this sports weekend, most of the time when we have what a great weekend in sports we have coming up, they don't always live up to it. You get a couple of blowouts, you get a couple of as everything was expected to be. This weekend was not. This weekend turned out to be a stellar sports weekend. And we should talk about some of the things that happened, mainly because we've got 2 Monday Night Football games tonight. But you've got to get there first.
I don't know. Is one of them actually a game?
I mean, in that there will be 2 football teams on a football field attempting to do a football.
Justin Fields playing tonight. Do we know?
I have not heard. That's a great question. I will find out. But there are 2 games tonight, and we've got to kill a little bit of time to get there. How do we do that? You might ask. The answer is very simple. You do for 8 hours what Lonzo and I do for 4, and that is talk sports. We do it for a lot more than that. It's just we do it professionally, close to professionally, for 4 every day. I'm here to help you with that, because if you're going to talk sports in order to kill some time between here and a pair of Monday Night Football games this evening, you got to know what's going on in the world of sports. And if you've got to know what's going on in the world of sports, you have come to the right place, ladies and gentlemen, because every morning at 7 a.m., we do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
Are you guys sniffing on newsprint or something?
before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you will be talking about when you get to the office today and start discussing sports with your boss, your supervisor, your coworkers, your manager, your IT guy, whoever it is you stand around the water cooler and chat sports with to kill time instead of doing your job. Nice job. This is what you'll be getting to. Here's item number 1. After I'm going to say, spectacular weekend of college football, your new AP Top 25 is out. The Ohio State Buckeyes will maintain their number 1 spot in the AP poll.
Sup, bruh?
However, they have given a few first place votes away. The Buckeyes of Ohio State will stay atop the poll at number 1 after a 24-6 defeat over the Washington Huskies. But the Oregon Ducks, after their road win at the Penn State Nittany Lions, do not just jump up 4 spots to number 4. But they also grab a fistful of Ohio State's first place votes. They now own 16 of them. The Big Ten takes the top 2 spots in the AP poll. The ACC now has spot number 3. The Miami Hurricanes will check in at number 3. Miami was idle this weekend, so could not gain a spot. They do lose one to the Oregon Ducks, dropping to number 3. However, the Canes do have 4 first place votes. Every first place vote is owned by those 3 teams. Ohio State 46, Oregon 16, Miami with 4. After their upset victory over the LSU Tigers, Ole Miss jumps 9 spots all the way up to number 4 in the poll. They are 1 spot ahead of number 5, Oklahoma. The Boomer Sooners gain a couple of spots in the poll after the win over Auburn. Texas A&M, Oklahoma's idle. That's after last week, and then they jumped up this week. A large chunk of the reason was because of the fall of Penn State. We'll get to them in a moment. The Aggies of Texas A&M, Mike Elko, football dude. The Aggies were idle this weekend, but because of a couple of drops, they move up 3 spots to number 6. Penn State, after the loss at home to Oregon, falls 4 spots down to number 7. Indiana, the Hoosiers. Kurt Signetti, he wins. Google him. 2015, a hilarious ending as they take the walk-off safety but they gave up the safety, but it was still a walk-off safety to the Iowa Hawkeyes. 20-15 your final. Indiana up 3 spots to number 8. Texas will move up 1 spot. They are now checking in at number 9 in the poll. They were idle this weekend. The Alabama Crimson Tide go on the road to Athens, Georgia, and the curse of Kirby continues. 24-21, the Tide get the win. That bumps them up 7 spots to number 10 in the AP poll. Going down the rest of the road, Texas Tech, the Red Raiders up a spot to number 11. Georgia falls 7 spots down to number 12. That places them 1 spot ahead of number 13 LSU, who falls 9 after their loss to Ole Miss to number 13. Iowa State and Tennessee remain unchanged at 14 and 15. The Doors, Vanderbilt, the highest rating they have been in a very long time after a 55-35 defeat of Utah State. Vandy moves up 2 spots to number 16. Georgia Tech falls a spot behind Vanderbilt. They are now down to number 17 after a thriller against Wake Forest. They struggled to get by Wake. They do send it to OT and get the win, but it cost them 1 spot down to number 17. Florida State, the biggest fall in the poll this week after a road loss at Virginia. FSU tanks 10 spots down to number 18. I feel like that's probably more in line with where they actually are. We'll talk about the shakeup in the ACC and SEC standings later on in the show. Mizzou bumps up 1 spot to number 19. Michigan falls a spot to number 20. Notre Dame up 1 spot to 21. Illinois up 1 spot to number 22. BYU goes up 2 spots to number 23. Virginia, unranked last week after the win over Florida State, moves to number 24. Arizona State was unranked last week. They moved to 4-1 and are now number 25. Just outside of the top 25, at 26 is South Florida, Utah to number 27, Mississippi State, Memphis, USC, North Texas, Maryland, TCU, and UNLV are all ranked. We will talk more about the rankings and what I do and do not think makes sense later on in the show. But we've got to get to item numero dos. I do not ordinarily make the results of an individual contest an item on the water cooler cheat sheet. That is, unless to say that individual contest was some way championship impacting or if it stood out for any particular reason. The Carolina Panthers' loss to the New England Patriots stood out for a very not great reason. 42-13, the Patriots put belt to ass of the Panthers yesterday. Bryce Young, 18 of 30, 150 yards and a touchdown, took 1 sack on the day. He was replaced with about 8 minutes left to play, and the game well out of hand, 35-6. When Andy Dalton came in, 5 of 6 with a touchdown as well. The Panthers ran for 129 yards. Chuba Hubbard had 49, ETN 33, Dowdle 32 on 9 carries. David Moore had 1 carry from the tight end spot for 12 yards. It was a very, I thought, nifty little tight end around off the right-hand side, but David Moore was injured on that play.
You said nifty?
I did say nifty.
What are you, like 75 years old?
You know, I've started leaning into some of the older catchphrases, and I don't know if that's a result of because I am an older now, or if like time is circular.
Yeah,
time's circular.
Circular. That's when you take a sickle and you cut that stuff off.
Cyclical.
There we go. Okay.
Time is cyclical.
I just want to say,
I'm only a little dumb.
Someone who's much older than you, I've never used the word nifty, so I don't know what you're grasping at, but don't do that.
I've started a new thing that I do in the morning, Lonzo, where because I try to be a smart person. In the AM over the past few weeks, and I'm going to start, this is going to be a gimmick we're going to work into the show. I have started to look up Merriam-Webster's dictionary word of the day. Would you like to know what today's word of the day, Lonzo, is?
Skibbity.
No.
Okay.
Because that is, of course, not a real word.
No.
Yet.
It is.
Oh, did
actually.
they put it in?
Yeah. It was
what is
added.
the definition of it?
Of skibbity?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't look up the definition. I know it's been added. I don't know if it's been added to Merriam-Webster, but it was added to Oxford's, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's see here. AI overview. Merriam-Webster has added skibbity, but it added it with a tag of slang because they will put slang words in. It won't be in the like physical copy of the dictionary, but to put slang in the digital edition.
Yeah, when's the last time you held a physical copy of a dictionary?
I don't know because I have the app on. I do have an app on my phone. I have the dictionary app on my phone because I am a nerd. Skibbity is a gibberish word spread by Skibbity Toilet, a popular YouTube show featuring human-headed toilets battling camera-headed humans. It is widely used as a nonsensical and occasionally pejorative expression and meme online. So it doesn't mean anything. However, you know what does mean something is today's actual Merriam-Webster word of the day, which is very appropriate talking about this Panthers loss, obliterate.
Yeah, that's what happened to him.
As in obliterated, which is what happened in this game. Drake made 14 of 17, 203, and 2 touchdown passes. Didn't really need much else after that. The Patriots only ran for 104 yards, but they did run for 3 rushing touchdowns. 1 from former horse chestnut Travion Henderson, Antonio Gibson, and Drake May. All punched one in against the Patriots. Stephon Diggs, 101 yards receiving on 6 grabs in this game. I don't know what you want me to say. This game was booty cheeks from the Panthers. And if you missed the last segment of the radio program, Dave Canales' post-game press conference was every bit as bad as the performance itself. It was just a bunch of, well, it's on me. I gotta figure out what the identity of the team. But my guy, you are coming up on a year and a half of football as the head coach. You have now had a half an off season, a full season, a full off season, and you're working your way towards half of a season, and your team doesn't know what its identity is. You not just that you don't know. It's one thing if you'd say, well, our identity is to be, and we are failing because, but he didn't say that. He said, well, it's on me. It's on me to find our identity. My guy, I expect you to have it by now. But hey, maybe I'm just aiming too high. We'll circle back around to that, but we've got to get to item number 3. The final day of Major League Baseball's regular season was yesterday. The teams that did not make the playoff wrapped up their seasons. A multitude of other teams went down to the wire. You know how back in April and May and June, when teams take dumb losses, and I get on the mic and I go, hey, morons, maybe don't lose that way. And a bunch of people, including the great one, Lonzo, go, Rob, there's 162 games. Why are you upset? The answer is because with great regularity, teams miss the playoff by 1 game. Like, say, I don't know, the New York Metropolitans, who entered the day yesterday needing a win and a Reds loss, and they would get in. Well, the Reds lost yesterday to the Milwaukee Brewers 4-2, which meant that all the Mets had to do was win against the lowly Florida Marlins. They lost 4-0. You change the result of any one dumb loss from the New York Mets this season, of which there were plenty, and the New York Mets are in the postseason. Instead, they pull an epic LOL Mets at the buzzer, lose, get shut out 4-0 by the Fish, and they are out. There were a number of other games that impacted the postseason yesterday, but the bracket is filled out. Postseason play begins with a wild card round tomorrow. Here's how it shaped up. Over in the American League, the Blue Jays of Toronto, a team that I was cold on early, lukewarm on, then got cold again, then got hot at the end of the year. They end up with the American League's number 1 overall seed, and they get a first-round bye. The Seattle Mariners, this is fun for me, these two teams. It is fun for me because these are two teams that for a few years now I have loved. They're very close, they're fun to watch, and they've just repeatedly found new fun and inventive ways to screw it up late. Neither of them did. Toronto gets the overall 1 seed. The Mariners get the 2 seed. Those two teams on the bye. In the wild card round, the Guardians win the Central. They beat the Tigers. The Guardians trailed the Tigers by 15.5 games a month and a half ago. They make up all of them and end up taking the division away from Detroit. Detroit, by way of being a wild card team, goes from threatening a month ago to be the number 1 seed. They will now be the 6th seed, and in the wild card round, have to go to Cleveland to win a best of 3 that will be entirely in Cleveland. The Yankees and the Red Sox out of the American League East are both wild card teams. 2 of the 3 wild card spots go to the East. The Red Sox and the Yankees get them. The Yankees claim the 4 seed and will host Bowtown in a best of 3 that starts tomorrow. Over in the National League, the Brew Crew end up with the best record in baseball, and they win the NL Central. They also win the number 1 overall seed, meaning if they make the NLCS, it will be hosted by Milwaukee. The Philadelphia Phillies win the NL East a week and a half ago, came down to the final weekend, but they do claim the number 2 seed and get the first round bye. The Dodgers win the West, but never live up to the 100-game hype. So the LA Dodgers end up as the 3 seed in the National League. They will host the wild card round against the Cincinnati Reds. That fires up tomorrow evening at 9 o'clock. Tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon, the 4 seed out of the Central, the Chicago Cubs, the Padres end up grabbing a wild card spot out of the NL West. Could not chase down the Dodgers, still good enough to get in. The Padres will travel to the Windy City to take on Chicago. In round 2, the Guardians-Tigers winner will get the 2-seeded Mariners. The Red Sox-Yankees winner will get the number 1 seed in the AL. The Blue Jays in the National League, the winners of the Reds and Dodgers will travel to Philly in the divisional round. The winner of the Padres and the Cubs will travel to take on Milwaukee in the divisional round. So your MLB postseason bracket is up and running. As an early warning, this evening, myself and Cody Decker will actually be doing a full MLB postseason preview. We will have that posted for you hopefully by this evening. If not, it'll get posted tomorrow right after the show, just in time for the first pitch of MLB's postseason. 1 p.m. tomorrow, the Tigers and the Guardians. 3 p.m. the Padres and the Cubs. 6 p.m. the Red Sox and the Yankees. 9 p.m. tomorrow, the Reds and the Dodgers. There is your water cooler cheat sheet when we come back. I want to make 2 discussions out of the Ryder Cup. The first is the event itself was awesome. The event itself was spectacular. The second one was what threatened to make it not spectacular, and it's our fault. I'll tell you about that when we come back. I'm Rob. He's Alonzo. The Rob Brown Show was on your radio. Let's get it. It's the Fan Upstate. Jacob, Brian Kelly did have a minor crash out. It wasn't as bad as the one after the Florida game, but I also think that Brian Kelly took so much heat from that crash out after the Florida game that I think he's had to tell himself, I should probably be less of a butthole in public. I think that's what happened. I could be wrong, but I'm not. Stay right there, guys. We'll be right back. The Rob Brown Show is back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. The Ryder Cup was this weekend. I told you on Friday the Ryder Cup is my favorite golf event. I like the Ryder Cup more than I like the Masters. And there is a lot of reasons for it. Number one is the fact that the golfers care. Now, I have another take on this I'm going to get to later on in the radio program, but the golfers care. You could tell that the Europeans care. And that's going to play into the take I'll have later. But the guys on Team USA this weekend were, although they got decimated on Friday and Saturday, yesterday put together one of the greatest sports rallies I've ever seen. Unfortunately, they came up just a few points short. But for a team that entered Sunday under threat of sustaining the biggest Ryder Cup loss in history, they rallied. They won 5 of the opening 6 matches. Bryson DeChambeau was down 5 through 7 and came back to split. Now, I have a complaint about that because if Bryson DeChambeau had any emotional maturity, the door was wide ass open to win and give the Americans a real sporting chance, but I'll come back to that later on. It was one of the greatest rallies I've ever seen. And it went from, on Sunday, having the Ryder Cup, my favorite golf event in sport, relegated to the tablet screen. I had NFL on all my screens. I've got, with the tablet included, 6 screens that are live in the Bro Cave on football Saturday and Sunday. Whatever is the least important thing happening goes on the tablet. When the Ryder Cup teed off yesterday, the Ryder Cup was on the tablet screen. By the end of the day, it had been promoted to the big screen. I don't use this phrase very often because it is, to me, overused. It's kind of like when people say, it's awesome, man. Most things that people say are awesome are not awesome in terms of delivering a feeling of awe. Most things are not that. It's just a word that we have used culturally so much that it's lost its true meaning.
I don't know. That's an individual thing. I mean, you're awesome and my awesome may be something totally
That's also
different.
fair. But again, if I take a bite into a sandwich and I go, it's awe, does this sandwich inspire awe? No. I may think it's awesome.
It does for you individually, maybe.
If a sandwich inspires awe, I need to get you out culturally. All right. I need to get you places. I need to get you to standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon inspires awe.
All right. This is a totally different argument. So I know we need to move on, but something you say, it hasn't happened yet, but it might today, could put me in awe. I could just sit back and go, wow.
That's true.
And I might be the only one listening that you put in awe.
I don't disagree. But in that case, when you use the word awesome, you're using it correctly. You would go, that was a take that put me in awe. Now, all that being said, the phrase I don't use because it is overused and therefore has lost its original intended meaning is on the edge of my seat. We say that about a lot of stuff that's not really that. Yesterday, I was quite literally on the edge of my seat. With 5 matches left to play, the Americans who entered the day with a chance to surrender 19 of 24 available points. And at one point, we're losing 5 matches. At one point, the scoreboard was almost entirely red with a couple of tied matches up there. And the Americans suddenly, you're going, they have a shot. I mean, it was borderline 28-3. Except I would even go so far as to say it was more like if that score was 42-3. And then suddenly the Patriots started coming back. It was unbelievable. I was quite literally on the edge of my seat. It was awesome. In that, it went from the tablet to the 75-inch. In that, it went from me and the boys texting and going, yeah, I'm not watching today. I don't need to watch a bloodbath happen when there's football on. And multiple of the boys in the group chat saying, yeah, it's NFL day. And while I love golf, there's no point, so I don't even have it on, to holy bleep, dude, turn it on. We have a chance. And we did. That was great. And part of the reason, the other reason that I very much love the Ryder Cup is the environment. I love golf. I understand that golf has certain norms and etiquette that aren't for everybody, but it is part of what makes golf special. And I love that there are a few events where golf, gimmicky though it may be, kind of go, what if we actually do embrace like the fun parts of sports? What if we do? What if we lean into it? The Waste Management Open is one of those things. They've got the stadium hole, a stadium where the grandstands wrap all the way around a par 3. And it is a frat party turned to 11 around a golf course. And the golfers lean into it, right? You will see guys go out there and in the tunnel to walk into the stadium will change shirts and put on their college football team or their NFL team. And when guys stick a golf ball to 6 inches, they will run down the course doing fist pumps and jumps and firing up the crowd. That's not golf, except for there it is. And it becomes must-see. Well, the Ryder Cup is one of those things. Let me give you a couple of examples. This was on the practice round on Thursday when Team Europe was standing on the range, getting their practice shots in. They were all kind of hanging out, chatting up strategy. And Rory McIlroy, who I love, was buttoning up his shirt before he took some hacks. And a fan went with what I describe as a God-tier heckle.
You don't need a button to choke, Rory. Thank you. Yeah.
Now, of the courteous laughter that you heard, about half of it was from Rory's Team Europe teammates who turned around and pointed at the guy. Shane Lowry, who ended up winning the thing for Team Europe yesterday, pointed at the guy and gave him one of the most emphatic thumbs up I've ever seen. Rory McIlroy, the guy who got cracked on, turned and looked at the guy and was dying laughing. He's like, you got me, bro. You got me. It was fantastic. That is part of the environment. Let me give you another example. Rory McIlroy on Sunday, up on it with Scotty Scheffler. This match was going back and forth. The Americans had to have it. And as Rory was getting set to tee off, I believe on like 10 or 11, Scotty Scheffler, who was down in the match earlier, came back, drew it level, and took a lead. That is a crowd of a few thousand people to the tune of Zombie by the Cranberries singing, he's in your head, Rory, Rory. That's fun. That's football stuff. That's great. But then it went overboard. Then it started getting to the point where the fans, and yes, to me, unfortunately, the American fans started to get carried away. In fact, the MC, one of the MCs for this event, because the Ryder Cup being a party, one of the things that they do is they open the facility well ahead of the guys going out, and they fill everybody in, and they are serving drinks from like 7 a.m. You can get out there and start knocking back some cherry fizz aid soda pops on the course. Fine, cool. It's a tailgate. Have at it. One of the MCs of the event was fired from the event as she was with a megaphone trying to get the crowd to practice and I am not making this up, you Rory, clap, 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 you Rory, clap, 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 clap chant going. That's an official MC from the event trying to get a bleep you Rory chant going.
Unfortunately, totally acceptable in sports now, right? Because it's happening in all sports.
So this is kind of the direction that I am going with this. That is not okay. To the point that after Team Europe won, Rory McIlroy had 2 bites that I want to play. The first is, as somebody who, and even I, dyed red, white, and blue Team USA, was literally wearing a red, white, and blue polo yesterday. I wasn't when the event started, but around halfway through, opened the closet, pulled out one of my star-spangled polos and threw it on because I wanted to put whatever vibes I could. Even I was going, you can't do that. Rory was getting straight up, bleep you, Rory, as he was walking down the fairways. There's room for heckling, and there's not room for that. Here was Rory's reaction after.
I don't think we should ever accept that in golf. I think golf should be held to a higher standard than what was, than what was seen out there this week. Golf has the ability to unite people. Golf teaches you very good life lessons. It teaches you etiquette. It teaches you how to play by the rules. It teaches you how to respect people. And, sometimes this week we didn't see that. So, no, this should not be what is acceptable in the Ryder Cup. But, we will be making sure to say to our fans in Ireland in 2027 that, what happened here this week is not acceptable. And it's, for me, it's, come and support your home team. Come and support your team. I think if I was an American, I would be annoyed that I didn't hear a lot of shouts for Scotty today, but I heard a lot of shouts against me. And it's like, support your players. That's the thing. So, look, it was a rough week for all of us. But at the same time, we shut them up by our performance and how we played. And we tried to, I chirped back a few times because it got to me a few times, but we tried to handle everything that came our way with class and poise. And for the most part, I felt like we did that.
Now, there were a couple of spots as Rory McIlroy. No, you know what? I'm defending Rory. He's absolutely right. There is time for the heckle. And again, I played you the clip a minute ago where a fan chirped at Rory. You don't need a button to choke as he was fixing his shirt. And Rory laughed at it. There were spots where guys were knocking down putts and the American fans were losing their mind. And Rory was like, I get it. Nice job. Like, have at it, boys. I'm good with that.
All right. If you're encouraging this behavior, the adversarial behavior, us against them, this is the stuff you're going to get. So either do it this way or just stop having competition between the two. It's going to happen. There's heckling in Europe also. Not to this like this degree now.
I agree.
But it will be when they get over there.
It might now.
And they're not going to stop it.
It might now. Or what I really hope happens is that the players themselves, who are the ones who are going to set the tone, start to police it. Now, I do want to play you one more clip.
As in how? I mean,
by saying,
we won't
don't
play.
do this.
Yeah,
I'll give you an example of how. Justin Thomas, 18. Shane Lowry setting up to hit a putt that would win the Ryder Cup. The American fans are acting up. Justin Thomas on Team USA walks in front of the grandstand, and he's given the shush symbol. He's like, stop, knock it down. It is one thing to cheer or to jeer and to have some fun. It's another thing when, like, a guy's in the backswing. This is still some level of golf. But at the end of the day, here's what I'm going to give Rory McIlroy credit for more than anything else. In the postgame, when he was asked about the heckling and all that.
With all that in mind, everything you go through, how satisfying is it to turn around to someone and say, quote, shut the F up, and then stiff it to 2 feet?
Very satisfying.
So, yeah, I mean, that just kills this whole thing.
I disagree.
Because he went around and said the exact word that bothered him, the exact thing that bothered him, he turned around and said it back to them.
I don't think any of them, based on what I've heard in the postgame presser, none of them have a problem with the F word. That's not it. It's the over-the-top usage and harassment in spots where that's uncalled for in golf.
How can you not use that word and it not be over the top?
In my I use it all the time without being insulting with it. There's a difference.
Yeah, life is not a Tarantino film.
I don't disagree, Lonzo, but also in sports, that's how people talk.
Notice he said
that's
my
part
name.
of the game.
He said my name.
Correct, because it's not the word. It's the spots and the times in which it is used. When a guy is in the backswing of a putt, that's not the time.
If they were saying "screw you, Rory," it wouldn't have bothered him as bad.
If a MC is leading a chant of "screw you, Rory," I would feel the same way. All right, we'll talk more about this later on because it is interesting. Spike texts the show, said Rory was right. As an American, I found that annoying. So did I. And I have another take on that I'll share with you later on in the show about the overall aspect of Americans in international sports. But when we come back, let's look at the AP 20 top 25. Let's react to that. That's next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
97.7 FM Greenville. 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
I mean, Kane.
Upstate.
We're starting to see people call for that here in this country. I'm just saying, let's not be hypocrites. I've heard some people say folks should lose their jobs for saying mean things on the internet.
0-3 away from home. New England's 2-2.
Be careful about your jeers.
Bryce Young held
I hate
30
that.
passing, 150 yards and a
Tone
touchdown.
makes me want to
Andy Dalton, 5
leap
of
through the
6
window,
passing, 58
not
yards
by
and a
myself.
TD. Young was replaced by Dalton with about 8 minutes left in the
That
game.
went from
Marcus
dramatic
Jones
to
returned to
threatening in
87
less than a
yards for
sentence.
touchdown. That sparked the Patriots offense in the win. 2 touchdown passes for Drake
That's the
May,
kind of
who ran
tone
for
that
another.
makes me
The Panthers are
surprised
back
that you
home
don't
this coming Sunday when
and
they host
haven't been
Miami.
punched.
The Braves wrapped up the season with a
Because if you
4-1
do
win
that
over the
tone
Pirates.
in the
First
wrong
half
place,
finishes at
someone's
75.
going to hit
9
it.
strikeouts
I think it is
over 5
perfectly
2/3.
fine
Atlanta wraps up the season
to
76.
make
The
a
Fan
point
Upstate is your home for
to
play-by-play
someone.
of firm and
Listen,
Paladins football.
I don't
Search
think
the
it's a
Fan
secret
Upstate on the
that
TuneIn
Kane and I
Odyssey and iHeartRadio
disagree
apps.
on
Chuck
pretty much
Sanders on the
everything.
Fan Upstate.
And yet, Kane and I have had. I don't think it's okay in other sports either.
The traffic
Yes.
is starting to pick up.
Okay, well that's not a sport. Even as a wrestling guy, that's not a sport.
That's where it originated.
No. Well, I mean, let's say it is. Let's say it is.
all
Yes, it is all AEW's fault.
As you drive through the upstate. I-26 is a
Yeah, no,
clear
I know,
shot
Kane.
east and
So
west.
am I. We know
Wayne
this.
Benson is problem
There is
free.
nothing
From
that
the
is
news
serious
talk
on this show from
98.9
6 till 10 a.m.
WRID Traffic Center. I'm Bill Brooks on the Fan Upstate.
All right, guys, stay right there because we're all on short breaks. I have to break up every short break with breaks.
That's right.
Break.
Garage doors today.
Your AP Top 25 has dropped. The Ohio State Buckeyes will retain their top position in the 2025 AP poll after week 6. They did, however, cede some first place votes back to the now number 2 Oregon Ducks. They jump up 4 spots after their win on the road over Big Ten rival Penn State. Miami has 4 first place votes, now at number 3, down 1 spot to make room for the Ducks. Ole Miss and Oklahoma round out your top 5. The Rebels of Ole Miss behind Revelation Trinidad Chambliss beat LSU. I did tell you LSU was a little bit overrated, so I thought. The Rebels up 9 spots, the biggest rise in the poll. Oklahoma comes up 2 spots to number 5. A&M up 3 spots to number 6. Penn State, after the L, drops 4 down to number 7, still 1 spot ahead of 5-0. Indiana up 3 spots to number 8. Texas moves a spot to number 9. Alabama up 7 spots after their win over Georgia to number 10. Texas Tech, Georgia, LSU after their loss to Ole Miss. Georgia after their loss to Bama, down to 11, 12, and 13. LSU, the second biggest fall in the AP poll. We'll get to number 1 here in a moment. Iowa State and Tennessee remain in spots 14 and 15. Vandy up a pair of spots to number 16. They move ahead of the rambling wreck of Georgia Tech, down 1 spot to number 17. Florida State, after their loss on the road to Virginia, falls 10 spots. They are the biggest drop in the top 25 to number 18. Mizzou up a spot to number 19. They flip-flop with number 20, Michigan, down 1 spot to number 20. Notre Dame up a spot to 21. Illinois, BYU, both up 1 and 2 spots respectively to 22 and 23. Virginia is ranked now after a top 10 win over Florida State. Arizona State will move from unranked up to number 25. Just outside the top 25, South Florida, Utah, Mississippi State, Memphis, Louisville, USC, North Texas, Maryland, TCU, and UNLV all receiving votes. Now, there's a lot about this poll that I find very interesting. I find the fact that Ohio State is starting to bleed some votes off, still has an overwhelming majority of them.
They did struggle a little bit with Washington
They
early,
did.
And I was concerned that they may drop because of that. But they rallied and were able to put some touchdowns up there, and I think that helped them stay at number 1. Washington was undefeated coming into the game.
Yes, they were. And it's not, honestly, it's not a bad Washington team. Like it wasn't a poor showing from Ohio State. It's just not what voters expect out of the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, it took them a little while to get going, and they didn't add enough points to make it look dominant.
So some votes getting bled off to other teams. Oregon obviously picking up a handful after a road win that nobody except me had them picked to beat Penn State, even though I actually do like Penn State this year, and we'll get back to that.
Yeah, because I'm curious if you would fire James Franklin.
It's such a weird spot because on one hand, James Franklin has Penn State like right there. Like they're right there.
They are in the conversation, but is that enough?
They are right there, and they have been right there. On the flip side, go look at James Franklin's record against top 10 teams. He's like 4-17. Go look at his record against Big Ten top 10 teams. He's like 3-12 in the Big Ten against ranked opponents. On one hand, Penn State is just right there. It feels like they need one more thing to turn the corner. On the other hand, they keep not turning the corner. Then again, Penn State was in the semifinals last year. Penn State was a couple of snaps of the football away from playing for a natty. And I got a sneaky suspicion they'll be right back in it this year. It's still a good team. Now, as I said coming into the year, I think Drew Aller's overrated. I think he's fine. I don't think he's a guy that you go, if Penn State wins the natty, it's because Drew Aller is exceptional. I think if Penn State wins the natty, it will be because Drew Aller was good enough, but they can run the hell out of the football. They asked a lot out of him against the Oregon Ducks, and he's in that tier of guys that I trust to do enough, but also guys that I do not want to say the game is on you. You have to go win this game for us. Dante Moore might be one of those guys, though, for Oregon. He might be one of those cats. The dude can go. There is, of this AP poll, there's not a lot that I really have a problem with. There are some spots that, like for instance, Virginia beats Florida State, but Virginia is still a handful of spots behind Florida State. The result there is because of the fact that Florida State, by way of their dominant victory over Alabama, an Alabama team that this week went to and beat Georgia, they are getting a lot of credit for a blowout win over Alabama that comes ahead of the punishment they take for the loss to Virginia. On the flip side, the Cavaliers, they don't really have anything else on the resume that makes you go, if they played this is where I'm kind of at. There is some level in the AP voting. Not that I always agree that this leads to what I think are the correct rankings, but I understand the process. There is some level of, if these two teams play, I think Team A beats Team B 4 out of 5 times. They just didn't on the one time they did play. And you do have to give some credit for head-to-head, which is why I think had Florida State been ranked where I thought was probably more appropriate, which was like 12-13, I think they would be behind Virginia. But to dump them 8 spots and to move Virginia up from like 32nd to 24th, I think is fair. This morning, as I was getting ready to do the radio program, every AM, I get a rundown sheet, a prep sheet from corporate. Basically, the folks at corporate just put together a rundown sheet that has a whole bunch of links and stories and stats and audio bites that we can use on the show. One of them comes from the AP. It comes from Koki Riley, who is a staff writer for the AP, who covers college football.
A C or a K?
K-O-K-I.
Okay. Okay.
Koki Riley is a staff writer who covers college football for the Associated Press. Now, I don't really go in on writers because we're in this weird spot in America. As somebody who is in the media, I feel like I have the leverage to say this. We are in this weird spot in America where we do not appreciate good, level-headed opinions, analysis, and journalism anymore. We, unfortunately, as a country, have the mentality and attention span of a goldfish. This is why clickbait is a thing. You can get mad about it. You can say it's insulting, but the reality is clickbait works. Why do you think Ryan Clark and Paul Feinbaum are famous? Is it because they have great takes? No one thinks that. No one thinks that Feinbaum and Ryan Clark have great. Ryan Clark's lost me. I was his only defender. He's lost me. They are famous because we want to be outraged and we have the attention span of a goldfish. So when a headline meant to get attention, which is just what we have to do, I have put out 1,000 social media videos over the past 5 years. If you go and you look at my social media videos that I've been putting out over the past 5 years since I started working here, I for the most part, wiped my social media clean to start anew when I got here. If you go look at my TikTok, my Instagram Reels, whatever, the most viewed ones are always the ones where I attack or insult someone. Not the ones where I do film study and I break down why this play was an elite play from player X and it needs to be called out because this was great work. It's always, this guy's an idiot. That guy choked. What a jackass. It's always that because that's what we want. Unfortunately, it's true. So in this era, when a headline stands out to me, that's bad. Koki Riley has a headline up, Lonzo, that reads, and I quote, picking a new number 1 and why Georgia is still ahead of Alabama in my poll. Now, it is one thing when number 8 loses to number 32, and you maybe can't say that you have to change their spots in the AP poll because of a victory. That's a lot of ground between number 8 with a dominant win over Alabama on their resume and number 32 with a loss to NC State, who is embarrassing themselves right now on their resume. I get that one. But it is a different game to me. It is a different reality to me. When somebody says the team that was number 10 in this poll, or actually I think Alabama was like 17, and a team that was number, what were they last week? Georgia 4-3 in the poll. When those two teams are in a different spot and the head-to-head victory, you end up with these two teams hanging around, both of them around 10, 11, 12. Like Alabama rises 7 or 8 spots, Georgia falls 7 or 8 spots, depending on the voter. They are next to each other in the poll. They played each other, and Georgia was at home. And you look at it and go, no, I can't see how the team that literally less than 24 hours ago went on the road to the other team's house and beat them didn't just beat them, outplayed them on their own house, and I'm going to put them ahead of Georgia. And her rationale was Alabama lost to Florida State.
Is this the same person who last week or the week before was also defending their pick? Is it the same one?
It is not.
Okay, so this is new for football, period. The fact that the AP voters are being put in a place where they have to take account.
Oh, no. Here's the best part.
votes.
They don't have to. This was an opinion piece she wrote. She wanted to put her vote out there. Cokie Riley wanted you to know that she put, and this is what I'm saying. The AP poll, the people who vote in this stuff, they are voting just as much so that they can write a piece like this. This is why, to me, this article is setting me off. This poll's got to go away. Like, honestly, this poll should go away.
I've been saying that for a while.
You have. And I've always kind of looked at it from the standpoint of, well, we should kind of rationalize it with the coaches poll. We should kind of like look at the two of them and then get a vibe for where it is and like meet in the middle about everything. But this poll's got to go away because all it has created is a world where somebody like Cokie Riley can do a dumb vote, which absolutely has an impact on what the playoff standings are when they are announced on November 4th. And the reason, in my opinion, the reason she did it was so that she could write this piece and make it go viral. And I guess I'm feeding the troll because here I am talking about it, but this matters. This matters. And when you're saying it matters less than me being able to get some clicks by putting up a headline that says, yeah, I know Bama just beat Georgia at their house 24 hours ago, but I still have to put Georgia ahead of them. No, you don't. You know you don't. I know you don't. What are we doing? I'll probably loudly complain about this more later on.
That's the old, well, the better team lost today. Okay, well, whatever.
I mean, but they still did. And honestly, on top of that, did the better team lose? Because I don't think they did. Called this shot on Friday. You know what other shot I'm going to call? 60 Seconds of Heaven with Lonzo Sports Flash.
And you're not even in West Virginia. The Carolina Panthers suffered a brutal 42-13 loss at New England yesterday. If you don't know that, then you're like 13. Bryce Young was 18 of 30 for 150 yards and a touchdown, with the majority of Carolina's 129 yards coming after the game was out of hand. Patriots quarterback Drake May completed 14 of 17 passes for 203 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win, and the Panthers looked horrible. The Atlanta Braves finished their season with a 4-1 win over Pittsburgh. Charlie Morton returned to the Braves for likely his final game in the majors. The win went to Chris Sale, who struck out 9 with just 1 run allowed in 5.2 innings. Excuse me. Atlanta had 6 hits, including a Ronald Acuna Jr. homer. And finally, Chase Elliott captured a checkered flag at Kansas yesterday, punching his ticket to the NASCAR playoff round of 8. Elliott started the second overtime restart in 8th place, but outpaced everyone in the final 2 laps to still win from Denny Hamlin.
Up to the minute upstate traffic. Traffic is building on main feeder roads like Wade Hampton, Woodruff, and Pelham. 385 has some residual stalls from overnight lane closures, Woodruff and Roper Mountain roads. And I-85 slows southbound from Highway 14 and northbound from 385.
Excuse
through the
me
Pelham Road
while
work
I
zone.
clear my
25
throat.
Electrifying hours of sports talk entertainment you're going to find anywhere. It is 8 o'clock. We got your audio blitz here in just mere moments from now. John Blau of the Post and Courier will join us coming up here in just a few minutes from now to discuss what did the Clemson Tigers do while idle this week. This weekend's game begins, I think, a trio of massively important games for the Clemson Tigers. It is a spot for this team to, if you'll allow me to use the expression about a team who hasn't been right all year, get right. It's a get right spot. You've got a pair of opponents that you are clearly going to outmatch on paper. It's a game that if you want to show that what has happened so far is indeed an anomaly. It is a game that if you want to show that what has happened this season so far isn't really who you are, you've got to come out and you've got to dominate the next two games. We will talk to John Blau about that coming up at 8:40 this a.m. Do have one other change in schedule for the week. Lulu Kesson is going to join us tomorrow on the show. Ordinarily, Lulu would join us at this time on Thursdays, but she is headed up to New York this weekend, so Lulu will join us tomorrow on the program to break down South Carolina's win over Kentucky, which we will also do coming up here in just a few minutes on the radio program. But allow us to get to your audio blitz. Some of the audio we've picked over the top 24 hours or longer since the last time that we did the audio blitz. I want to start with this one. The Tennessee Titans are going through it right now, as we knew that they would. It is a rebuild. There is a new head coach. They had the number 1 overall draft pick in the draft this year. They went out and selected Cam Ward. They had a game yesterday against divisional rivals, the Houston Texans. And the Texans have not exactly had a sterling start to the season themselves. These two teams entered yesterday's game without a win between them. And the Titans fans were pretty excited to get their first one. Instead, the Titans came out and got beat 26-0 by H-Town. A shutout pitched by the Texans. Cam Ward, their starting QB, went 10 of 26 for 108 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, was sacked twice, a QBR of 27, one of the lowest on the season of any quarterback so far. The Titans also ran the ball for just 82 yards, 64 belonged to Tony Pollard. Cam Ward had 22 yards of rushing. No one else had positive yardage at all. So Cam Ward got into his press conference yesterday, and it was time for him to address what happened and where this team is.
Everything from interception to a penalty to an incompletion by me, a bad ball. And then once we pass the 50, we just not continuing to drive. So, I mean, we keeping the buck right now, we ass. So we 0-4. We have, this point, we got nothing to lose. We dropped a quarter of our games and we've yet to do anything. So we have to lock in. Especially myself on the offensive line, from the defensive line, from the special teams to all three faces, we have to play together. We have not played together this year yet. And that's just something that, we want to preach about it every day. Every day we got to do better. And we're doing that, but it has to show up on Sundays. It hasn't showed up yet, but it got to show up next week.
Which brings us to the newest entry on the Rob Brown soundboard.
I mean, we keeping the buck right now, we ass.
I love it. I love it.
As long as you're talking about a team and you're not talking about us.
Yeah.
Because, then yeah.
I mean, listen, we've had some segments where
I mean, we keeping the buck right now, we ass.
I mean, it's happened. It's not usual. It's an anomaly. But sometimes
I mean, we keeping the buck right now, we ass.
It happens, it happens. Listen, I am
making me nervous because I can't do something.
I am very much on the fence about Cam Ward. On one hand, I thought he was. I did not love him. I did not love him as the overall number 1 pick. Then again, there weren't a lot of options at quarterback in this draft this year. None that I particularly.
How often does the number 1 pick come in and just turn the program completely around in their first year?
Very rarely.
Yeah,
very rarely. In fact, I heard, and I wish I could remember who it was, but one of the color guys yesterday was talking about. Gosh, who was he talking about? I don't remember. He was talking about one of the quarterbacks who have. Oh, Dad was talking about Danny Dimes and the season Danny Dimes is having right now. And he said, I think we need to, and I'd like to welcome it. And this is why I wish I could remember who it was, because I'd send them a membership card to the Rob Brown Club of sometimes we got to put the emphasis on franchise and franchise quarterback, not on quarterback and franchise quarterback. The color guy said, and I don't remember who it was, but said, I don't think we spend enough time talking about the fact that sometimes franchises fail quarterbacks. Sometimes franchises fail quarterbacks. Sometimes you're bringing a guy because your team stinks and you just expect a guy is going to show up and change the entire franchise. And that's a lot to ask of a rook. And Cam Ward's one of those guys. On the flip side, Cam Ward was bad yesterday. And there were some drops. Tennessee's dealing with some injuries, but Cam Ward was bad yesterday. At the same time, there was a lot out of the preseason that I liked out of Cam Ward. There were a lot of good throws, a lot of flashes, a lot of times behind the mic. And now adding this one where I'm like, that guy felt genuine. Like that guy felt like he was being very sincere in that response. And I appreciate it like a lot. I appreciate it like a lot. Clayton Kershaw, pitcher for the LA Dodgers, finished out his season and his career yesterday, his last start with the Dodgers, his last pitch as a major league pitcher. Well, just a couple of days ago, Clayton Kershaw had a more emotional moment than anything that he did yesterday. Clayton Kershaw threw his last pitch, got the K. Freddie Freeman came out to yank him from the game. But 2 days before that, the Dodgers clinched the division. And Clayton, who got the dub that day, was celebrating in the locker room when it was time for the interview.
Want your shirt back? No, I don't want my shirt back. I don't want goggles. I don't want a shirt. I hardly want pants, Dave. All right, well, I did right there.
I hardly want pants, Dave. Clayton Kershaw, who at this point is just full dad bod. And I'm not talking about the dad bod where you look at a dude and you're like, that guy's clearly a pro athlete. Like maybe he's not shredded like he was in his prime, but like clear. No. Clayton had the belly hanging out. He was just living his best life, getting absolutely schmammered on some Budweisers in the locker room. And Dave's like, do you want to put a shirt on for this interview? Clayton's like, I don't want a shirt. I don't want goggles. Hell, I don't even want to wear pants right now, Dave. You know, every now and then I say sometimes like it's very nice to have an athlete that that you just relate to. Clayton's on that list now because I'll be honest with you. Rob Brown has a good day. That's all I want is to go home, take off my pants, and not put them back on. I get it, is what I'm saying. Shane Beamer and his Gamecocks, who we will talk about at length coming up here in the very next segment of the radio program, knocked off the Kentucky Wildcats 4th time in a row that Shano took down Mark Stoops and the Wildcats. After the game, Shano was asked about the Cox playing Beamer ball.
But to me, Beamer ball is when you can score on defense, you can make plays on special teams. And one of their coaches this week got asked about Beamer ball, and he said, I'm not familiar with that at South Carolina. That's a Virginia Tech Frank Beamer thing. So we'll see.
Now, what you can't see, because this is an audio medium, is that in answering, one of the coaches said, I'm not familiar with that at South Carolina. Beamer ball is a Virginia Tech Frank Beamer thing. So, and you heard that pause, it is because live on national television after the win, Shane looked at the interviewer, looked up and pointed at the scoreboard and said, we'll see.
One of my favorite moments of Saturday.
Oh, so good. Shano kept the receipts. Now, there were some other things he said in the postgame press conference that we're going to play here in just a few minutes and I will respond to. But that moment was exceptional. Exceptional. Alabama taking on Georgia this weekend. It's a tight game. Ended up being a field goal game. Well, at one point, Ellis Robinson IV, as Georgia had just come up with a big stop.
Sounds like he owns a vineyard or something.
He might need to own something to not play football after this. Alabama's got the ball. They are driving. It is 3rd and some to go. Georgia gets a stop to force the punt. That is until about 5-6 seconds after the whistle blows, Ellis Robinson IV comes sprinting into the frame. And I guess he must have just seen the new Superman movie because my man went full vert, full horizontal, and helmet first onto the top of the pile, which was not a pile because the play was over. And Kirko lost his mind.
I mean, what in the world are you thinking here? The play is over. It's over. Whistles have been. I mean, this isn't a practice. What the hell are you thinking? That's 15 yards. You just cost the team.
That is just ludicrous. That wasn't late. That was way, way late.
Not great. Alabama would end up keeping the ball, would end up scoring on that drive, and also giving us another new entry to the board.
What in the world are you thinking here? Like, what the hell are you thinking?
Spectacular, Kirk. Thank you very much.
So you can't blame the coach on that one.
No. And that is one thing that there was a little bit of this weekend that we need to talk about. And it is the fact that we have a lot of times and places that we can go after coaches. I think it is abundantly fair, dare I say, apropos, to go after Dave Canales for the Panthers performance this weekend, because it wasn't just that the team didn't execute. It's that I also think the game plan was crap, or at least the game plan to start the game was excellent, and then it went to crap after that. I can put that on Dave. I can put what's happening at Clemson right now on Dabo, and I don't think I'm being unfair to do it. But when I've got football dudes that are doing stuff like that, in fact, I will go to one more. There was a play in the Virginia-Florida State game. Now, Florida State would lose this game, obviously, but there was a play where Virginia ran a little bubble screen out to the running back. They shifted everybody to the left. They played to the left. They threw it back to the right. There was a DB for Florida State who had a heat seeker on the chest of the Virginia running back. The running back gets the ball in the hands, but he dropped it. And you can see the Florida State DB, who was about to hit this cat into the shadow dimension at the last seconds, dips the shoulder and pulls off to avoid the hit. And I was watching this happen. Mike Norvell came off the sideline, went up to this dude, and gave him the old helmet slap like, hell yeah. Because if he hits that guy, instead of it being 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, whatever it was, it's 1st and 10 Virginia on a drive that was sustained on a night where Virginia did an excellent job just dink and dunk and sustain a drive. Norvell went out there and hit that kid on the helmet and said, hell of a job. Way to recognize the spot you were in and not follow through with it. This is the opposite of that. I can't put that on Kirby. If you are too dumb to realize that you can't run in and 5-6 seconds after a whistle, fly helmet first into the pile.
What in the world are you thinking here? Like, what the hell are you thinking?
You can't do that.
See, that's the whole point. Listen, have you ever did something and when you were done, you're like, why did I do that?
Sure.
And you have no idea why you just did it.
Sure.
Okay. It happens to us all the time. And I'm hoping that player's like, why did I do that? And in this case, it cost them big time. And sometimes that happens when you do something and you don't know why you did it, but you did it.
100%. And we will wrap it up with this one. Lane Joey Freshwater Kiffin and his Ole Miss running Rebels welcome the LSU Tigers of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, down to the Groove this past weekend. Well, the LSU Tigers, who, if you will recall, and I hope that you will, Rob Brown tried to tell you nary but a few days ago, I think this is the most overrated team in the Southeastern Conference. I think they might be the most overrated team in college football. It's a good team. It's a fine team, but let us not pretend like this LSU team is unbeatable. What would you look at that? 24-19. The Ole Miss running Rebels pull the upset and knock LSU off the lofty perch. Well, in this game, there were some standout guys who may or may not tomorrow pick up a couple of
that is not real
awards, but Caden Lee, who is absolutely one of them, for grabs, 70 yards and a touchdown in this performance for Ole Miss. Well, Lane Kiffin got himself up to a microphone yesterday and was asked about the performance of Caden Lee, and this is how he responded in the postgame presser.
Coach, a lot of people stepped up for you today. One player that we haven't seen a lot of, Winston Watkins, wide receiver.
Yeah.
Big day for him.
Yeah, Winnie's going to be a great player here. Shoot, I'm not supposed to say that because then everybody will go buy him in the portal. Forgot I'm not supposed to do that anymore. I mean, he's just okay, you know. He really doesn't know his plays and stuff, so, you know, it'll be a couple years before he's good. No, Winnie's awesome. He's a really good player.
Okay, that's my bad. It was Winston Watkins. It wasn't Caden Lee. Winston Watkins, 3 grabs, 38 yards, had a couple of stellar blocks on the outside. The point here is Joey Freshwater is the best. Joey Freshwater's. And by the way, last week was the week of Lane. It was Lane Kiffin week. Because not like you had the 30 for 30 that's coming out on Lane that I got to tell you, I'm exceptionally excited about. The previews for it look spectacular. You had the announcement from Lane Kiffin's daughter. She hard launched her relationship with LSU linebacker Will Wheat. This was fun because she did it the week her old man, Joey Freshwater, a.k.a. Lane Kiffin, was playing LSU. His daughter announces she's in a relationship with Whit Weeks. And there were all sorts of jokes going around, to which Lane said, take the over, because I'm going out there to beat the new boy toy. In fact, as he walked off the field, this was the last thing he said before he went to the postgame presser.
Coach Kiffin, a huge conversion on 4th and 3 to put the game away. What did your quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss, and this entire offense do well here tonight?
Trinidad made up for running out of bounds. So, we believe in our players. We go for it on 4th down a lot, and glad they made plays. I'm looking for Whit right now to see if we covered over.
Incredible. Hey, buddy. Sure. You can take my daughter out on a couple of dates. Absolutely. Football player.
Pal.
You can take my daughter out on some dates. Just remember who your daddy is. Lane said, going to find my girlfriend, my daughter's boyfriend, to check and see if he covered the over after we just put that L on his squad. I love Lane Kiffin, dude. I don't care if Lane Kiffin never wins another game. He better be employed forever. Dude's the best. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk about that Gamecock win over the University of Kentucky over the weekend. Was that a get-right game? Do we see a run like the one South Carolina went on last year that had them a game outside of the college football playoffs? We'll talk about that next on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
3 friends.
All right, guys, one more live, and we're coming back. Stay right there for me, please, and thank you. SEC Network. There is a lot of reaction to this win. There's a lot of reaction to this win, as there should be, and I think was frankly justified for the bounce back. I have a couple of reactions. The first is, as I have mentioned a number of times, the name of the game is consistency. It was consistency after the opening 2 wins against Virginia Tech and SC State. Okay, you took a little while to get going against Tech. Can you keep that consistency going into the game against SC State? The answer was no. It took them a while to get going against that team as well. But there was that long rain delay, et cetera, et cetera. So I said, all right, a lot of variables to this. On top of that, that was a game that a little old SC State team was going to do everything in their power to go get a win, because that would have been a program-altering win had they got it. There was a lot going on in that one, but can you be consistent and carry that into the game against Vanderbilt? The answer was no. You got curb stomped by Vandy. Now, in fairness, a Vanderbilt team that is now inside of the top 20 in college football's AP poll. So, as I pointed out at the time, it's not that you lost to Vanderbilt. It was how you lost to Vanderbilt. But could you break that? Make sure that slow play and disappointing play with a lack of effort did not become a consistent indicator of your football team this year. You came out against Mizzou. And the good news is there was a little grit, a little toughness, a little heart. But unfortunately, late in that game, there were a couple too many mistakes, and you couldn't tackle. So then the question after the loss to Mizzou was, all right, offensively, can you keep a rhythm going? Can you continue to throw the ball? Can you continue to take the pressure off of Lenora Sellers? Can you make something out of this? And can you not become a team that consistently underperforms on defense? And I thought that this game, the answer to that was yes. But because you know me, I got to rub the shine off the apple a little bit. That's a bad Kentucky team. This is not the Kentucky team that had a very impressive Will Levis at the helm. This is not a Kentucky team from a couple of years ago that had Benny Schnell at running back. This was not the Kentucky team from a couple of years ago that had 2 or 3 NFL draft picks on defense. This is, as I said on Friday, arguably Mark Stoops' worst Kentucky team since he's been there. So you did what was expected in this game. And in fairness, after the last 2 weeks, I'll take what was expected. What happened against Vandy was not what was expected. Not the L, because again, L's are going to happen. But an L in which my biggest takeaway was the one thing that I never thought I would question about this team was its heart, was its grit. And that team looked like it rolled over in that game against Mizzou. The take I had was you showed the heart, you showed the grit, and I appreciate that. But the other thing that you have to get right if you are South Carolina is that you must be technically proficient. Your roster has, over the past few years, gotten better. Now, last year's roster may have been the best South Carolina roster in years. This year's is not as good. Because of that, if you want to elevate from mid to upper mid or maybe bottom elite of the Southeastern Conference, you have to be very technically proficient. You have to tackle well. You have to throw well. You have to catch well. You have to run well. You have to block well. You have to do the fundamentals well. And then rely on that little bit of extra culture, character, whatever you want to call it, that is supposed to be the hallmark of a Shane Beamer team to carry you in spots where your athleticism can't. I think we got there with this one. There was one more thing that jumped off the page at me. I thought Lenore Sellers being utilized as a runner was better. I thought the run game in this game was better. Here were Shano's thoughts on it.
In regards to the running game, we ran for 178. That's a hell of a lot better than -12 or whatever we were last week. So that's a positive. We ran it 48 times, which I love that. I love the fact that we were out there on that last drive with a couple of those plays. We didn't even have a receiver on the field. We had 4 tight ends out there just playing old school smash mouth football. So it was good. Certainly needs to be better. I thought we missed some cuts looking at it early on, looking at the tape or on the iPad on the sideline. Looked like there were some runs that were maybe blocked a little bit better than what we got out of it. Certainly Lenoris being able to run for close to 100 yards is good. I wouldn't say that, Jack, necessarily about Matt becoming number one. I mean, we love Oscar, we love Sewell, we love Matt, but Matt was a guy that we wanted to get going. We did that last week. We had a package for him last week where we had 2 running backs on the field at the same time, and that was his role. And then tonight we kind of expanded that role where he was going to be out there with just he being the only running back. And then in the fourth quarter, we felt like everything was under control. And yeah, all right. All right. Felt like everything was under control and liked the way that Matt came in there and finished the game.
So he pointed out in the middle.
Wait, did someone fall down or something?
I think one of the reporters had like a hack attack, like a cough attack, and unfortunately, the tactical mute button is not available in real life. So I think one of the guys was having a coughing attack, and Shane was checking on him. But I also think that you saw between that and the clip we played earlier, where Shane was like, one of their coaches said Beamer ball is a Virginia Tech Frank Beamer term. Whelp, we'll see, and he pointed at the scoreboard. Like that's the Shane that this South Carolina team needs all the time if you want to elevate, because that is where, again, I think Shane is I don't think he's a great X's and O's guy. I think he's good. I don't think he's a great X's and O's guy, which is why I have also said, much like I have with Dabo Sweeney, I think you've got to have a couple of coordinators that are great X's and O's guys, and let Shane be the culture character guy that gets and retains players, because that is equally important to the success of a football program. I think that's the vibe you got. But as far as the play calling goes, to have Lenoris Sellers as a runner. And again, when I've said I want more design runs for Lenoris, it's not just because Lenoris is a great runner, and he is. It's because he's a great runner who can throw the ball on the run better than most college football quarterbacks can. And so you need to keep that open so that the threat is always there. Designed runs so that players have to play him as if he is a running back with the ball in his hand, but allow him to still throw over their heads when they have to commit to stepping up to stop him. I thought that was impressive out of this win as well. I got a few more thoughts on that game I'll share with you later in the show, but we've got to run to a break because when we come back, John Blau of the Post and Courier. John covers the Clemson Tigers. We will find out what Clemson did on the bye week to get ready for what I believe is, while maybe not the most impressive, the most important 3-game stretch that the Tigers have played in a while. Because if they cannot show up and show out in these next 3 games, there will be some awkward conversations to be had. So what will it take for them to do so with a noon kick against North Carolina on the road? We'll address that with John Blau with the Post and Courier next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stay right there. We'll get John lined up. We'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and joining us now on the phone lines, as he does every Monday, kind and generous enough to share some time with us from the Post and Courier. He covers the Clemson Tiger Athletic Department. John Blau joining us here on the show. John, bye week, the Tigers' idol, Ryder Cup guy, baseball guy, or were you just locked in on the bye week?
Locked in on the bye week as we talk about naps, few naps. And then, I watched some of the other games on Saturday too. I mean, it was interesting to see that Georgia Tech Wake game, get a comparison there. Florida State, Virginia, obviously, those were interesting to watch.
They were. Let me ask you, and I know this is away from, but still adjacent to Clemson. What impact does Georgia Tech, if any, getting into an overtime fist fight with Wake Forest? You know, we talked about, say, Alabama and the win over Georgia, I think helped Florida State probably not fall as far as they would have with the loss to Virginia. What impact does Georgia Tech, who beat Clemson and did so relatively convincingly, getting into that fight against Wake Forest, what impact do you think that has on the view of Clemson from the national writers?
Yeah, I don't think it helps. I mean, obviously, though, pull out a little bit. I mean, teams can have bad days. So, I mean, maybe Georgia Tech just had kind of a down game a little bit. But one thing that was concerning for me, and this was just a small moment in the game, the way Wake Forest was able to bow up defensively and stop Haynes King in the red zone. I mean, just going back to that Clemson game, I mean, it just seemed like Haynes King was cutting right through him, no resistance whatsoever. And then Wake Forest shows you with just some physicality and the way they attacked at the line of scrimmage that, you know, Haynes King isn't Superman. you can stop him in the red zone. And that's the thing that, for a comparison for Clemson, if you're talking about the things that have been disappointing about the Tigers, has been the defense not having that physicality, not being able to do the same things that a Wake Forest was able to do. So that was the thing I took away from it. As far as the national perspective, yeah, I mean, it makes you question Georgia Tech. It makes you question Clemson even more. Again, teams can have up and down games, so who knows? But we're going to have to see the rest of the season play out. But that was the thing that stood out to me, just the fact that Wake Forest was able to do some things that Clemson couldn't.
John Blau joining us here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. So let's get into the idle week. Obviously, no game. But we also have talked about, John, that these next these games are critically important, both from the standpoint of you need to stack a couple of wins together for the confidence of the team, but also it feels like a get-right spot for Clemson. North Carolina, not what the Tar Heels fans hoped they were going to get when they brought in Bill Belichick. Boston College, not the same team they were a few years ago. And then SMU, your title contender in the ACC from last year, but obviously have taken a bit of a step back. So how did this team spend the idle week getting prepared for what I think at the beginning of the year we all kind of thought was this is their chance to get some reps and get ready for Duke, FSU, Louisville down the stretch, to now this might be the most important 3 games. And I don't know if this is exaggerative or not, John, but maybe the most important 3 games, at least in recent memory, of Dabo Swinney's career.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the most important 3-game stretch this season because obviously if you're throwing the first 4 out the window. But like you said, they need to get some positive momentum. This is an opportunity to do that. I mean, you're still a 14-point favorite over UNC on the road, even at 1-3, because that's how bad UNC has been. Obviously, Gio Lopez has been a quarterback, had an injury. Don't know if he's going to play. Max Johnson. The defense is, they're getting outgained by Central Florida. So it's definitely an opportunity there. Like you said, Boston College and SMU is 2-2. And that's a good question in terms of how they spent the bye week. Don't know yet. I mean, it'll be interesting to listen to Dabo Swinney's radio show, to talk to Dabo tomorrow, get a clue if they did try some different personnel packages, different guys getting reps. If they've shifted any responsibilities or figured any of those types of things out, coaching wise, maybe going into this next game, or if it was just kind of, rest and recover, reset like they've been talking about. So it's incredibly important if you want to take this 1-3 season that could maybe be 8-4, or if you want to make it a 6-6, a 7-5, it looks a lot worse. So It's very important for them to pick up some momentum here. There's obviously the opportunity to do that.
John Bilal joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. So let's look ahead to this North Carolina team. Like we mentioned, kind of a disappointing start. They are 2-2. Their wins over Charlotte and Richmond. They got blown out by TCU. They got blown out on the road at UCF. This is also a team, John, that is trying to get itself right, but a team that both on paper and you would like to think under the headset, Clemson is just an outright mismatch, which to me makes it feel like this is a game to dial in on execution. Don't need to do anything fancy. Don't need to go out there and try to put up ESPN top 10 plays. Just go win the football game. What do you believe the mentality of Clemson is coming into this game?
Yeah, I mean, this UNC offense had averaged, I think it was 3.7 yards per play last time out against Central Florida. Not very good. 63 yards rushing. At the same time, again, we got to look back at Syracuse last time out. I mean, this is not our Syracuse team that was running the ball particularly well, ran for 155 yards on you. So you can't even just look at the stats and say, well, UNC only did this. Clemson has played down to their opponents, to be very frank, so far this season. They have not played up. So, you want to see Clemson shut down that UNC running game. If they're able to get 63 yards against UCF, you want to see it be 50 or under for Clemson. I mean, you want to see the Clemson offense, obviously, against the UNC defense that gave up nearly 400 yards to UCF. You want to get 400, 450, and get rolling against these guys. If you can't do that, that's again the concern that we've had, and obviously we're probably past concern at this point. They're 1-3. That just continues and amplifies. And, Garrett Riley was interesting to talk to, last week. He was talking about just needing more of a short-term memory, and maybe that guys are lingering on mistakes too long. And again, in terms of a reset, they need to get some positive momentum, because it does feel like maybe they're lingering, they're pressing, they're letting this bad start get to them and continue it and have it kind of linger on. So they need to get some positive momentum against a team that they should be able to, but again, they have to play up to the competition, not down, which is what they've been doing so far this season.
So I heard those comments from Garrett Riley as well about changing the mentality, changing the short-term memory. And I think that obviously is important, but at the same time, John, it's obvious and I think understandable and frankly human to enter with national championship aspirations, dare I say, expectations, and now be sitting here going, we've got to go beat North Carolina just to make our way back towards 500. The approach to changing that mentality, that feels like it would be a Dabo Swinney special. We know what he is. Good coach, but great motivator, great mindset changer, etc. Has that been a message from the coaching staff to this team about, look, we're not what we wanted to be, but we still have an opportunity to go out and get some wins and do something? Or has it just been kind of a let's go play the game we play message?
Yeah, I mean, I think the word that Dabo used was reset. I mean, they just want to kind of look at it as that 1-3 start was his own season. It's over. We're going into the bye week. We have a new season. It's 8 games long. Or what are we going to make of that? And obviously, you can point to previous seasons. Again, they, as much as Clemson fans have hated it, I mean, they started 4-3 in 2021. They're 4-4 in 2023. And they went on runs in both of those years. I mean, they finished with 10 wins in 2021. They finished with 9 in the Gator Bowl against Kentucky in 2023. And it's about creating momentum. And, Colin Sadler talked about this, that, he doesn't want to be seen as somebody who tapped out, who quit by some of these younger guys that are here. And it's about building momentum into the next season. So obviously the chances are incredibly low that Clemson is going to be able to make the postseason, or the playoff. I mean, maybe obviously you're hoping the postseason with a bowl, but you want to create momentum like you did in 2023, where you won, 5 straight games, and then you went into that next season in 2024. You made the playoff because you created some positive momentum towards the end of that season. So I think that's kind of the message: is again, reset, create some momentum, see if you can kind of get this thing moving in the right direction, not just for this year, but for next year as well.
John Bilal joining us here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. So what does this North Carolina game look like to you? Like I've said a couple of times, it doesn't feel like a flashy game. It doesn't need to be. Let's go run Adam Randall. Let's make sure Antonio's getting the ball. Let's give Cade a pocket to sit back there and find his rhythm and routine. Do you expect this to be a kind of a dialed back to basics style game? Or do you think Clemson will try to go out there and take some of the disappointment and anger out on the heels?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Garrett Riley always wants to be balanced. I mean, he talks about that third grade in terms of wants to run the ball, establish it, and pass. And to be honest, I feel like he's gotten away from that a little bit in this early season. I think there have been times where, again, I go back to the 3rd and 1 against Syracuse. You're down 27-14. You could have just handed the ball off on 3rd and 1. You instead, Cade pulls it and tries to run and loses yards or gets 0, and then you try to pass it on 4th and 1. I really think that you just need to hand the ball to Adam Randall. You need to maybe even get Gideon Davidson, David Iziamume in there as well. Run it as much as you can. Make things, like you were saying, just as simple as possible for Cade Klubnik, and get that UNC defense to really have to respect the run. And so I think that's key for Clemson. I think they just got to really pound that, and then see where it goes. And then, if UNC is giving you really porous coverage, you obviously got to trust Cade Klubnik. He can't, play like he's a sophomore. Give him the latitude to be the quarterback you think you thought he was going to be, the quarterback that you say you've seen in practice, and let him take some shots. And so we'll see. But I think they first have to establish that run. I think it is, like you said, a little bit a back to basics type game there.
And that makes it interesting because, again, with, North Carolina coming up, but then at Boston College, these are back-to-back road games. John, there are spots where I think sometimes it can help a team to get on the road, to get away from the comforts, to get away from your own house, to have to travel together, sleep together, be around each other, to kind of click, to kind of get that chemistry back. And I think that is something that Clemson wants to lean on. So how important is it for these next 2 games on the road to get it right before an SMU team that is going to be coming into that game also a little bit disappointed with where they are in the season?
Yeah, I mean, as much as, some Clemson fans are probably disappointed, the other Clemson fans, for some of the boos that, have rang out, at Memorial Stadium when Clemson's played the way they played. Like you're saying, I think it's good to get away and get to, just be, like you said, with themselves, kind of really keep that bubble really tight there, to kind of block out the outside noise that they talk about, and just get on the road and, have that environment and get things in a positive direction. So when you come back home, you're 3-3, things have kind of stabilized at least a little bit. Maybe everybody's a little bit happier when you're back playing SMU again. So I think this is good for kind of cleansing the palate, getting things moving in a positive direction. And like you said, SMU will be interesting to see over the next couple of weeks. If they're able to win a couple games as well, it'll get kind of moving in a good direction. So it's a little bit more of a battle, or if maybe SMU is still scuffling a little bit, you got home field advantage. And like we're talking about, again, you got maybe 3 straight games there. We can post wins. You're 4-3. You got Duke after that, which I know Duke killed Syracuse, but I would think that, if you can play a better game, you got a chance to win that game as well, going to Florida State the week after that. So this is definitely a very important stretch here. I think it's an incredibly important road swing, like you're saying, to kind of get that, mentality back where you need it to be, and then see if you can kind of finish strong.
John Blau with the Post and Courier. Last one. I didn't even think about this, but you brought it up, John, so I do want to ask about it. The boos at Memorial have been loud, have been obvious, even on the TV broadcast. I know 2 weeks ago, Dabo didn't just acknowledge them, but he was asked about it, and he said, look, I agree with them. Like, I was ready to boo this football team. That is not necessarily the image that most of us, I don't think, have about Clemson, especially playing at home. What impact, if any, do you think that has had on this football team? And more importantly, if they do go get road wins against Carolina and Boston College, do you think that kind of resets them with the fan base before they come home for a 3-gamer against SMU, Duke, and a top 25 Florida State team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know for sure. Obviously, again, can't be in their heads. But again, I go back to what Gary Riley was saying in terms of them lingering on stuff, and Dabo said it, them pressing, and that probably does, factor in. You're at home, and you're hearing people booing you after you're making mistakes. You obviously don't want to be booed. You want to have them like you. You have an environment like Syracuse where obviously there's that long delay, and maybe only half the stadium comes back. You're playing in like a spring game type of environment, just in terms of the numbers that are there. It's not what you come to Clemson to play for. It's not what you expect. And obviously these guys have a certain amount of pride. They want to obviously have their home fans behind them and positive towards them. So like again, we were talking about just getting on the road, getting some confidence back, maybe getting things moving in a positive direction. And then some of those fans who are a little frustrated just because, again, this is a program that won a couple national titles, went to 6 straight playoffs, just not what they expect. Maybe you can get them kind of feeling a little bit better and everybody's kind of more kumbaya going forward.
John Blau covers the Clemson Tiger Athletic Department for the Post-Courier. Kind enough to give us some time every Monday morning at 8:40. My man, appreciate you, John. Enjoy the game this weekend. Hopefully we're talking a little bit more upbeat next Monday.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thanks,
you got it. John Blau for the Post-Courier. Make sure you follow him on X at John, Jon Blau, BLA. You make sure you follow Lonzo through the best 60 seconds of your day. This Sports Flash.
Let's take a journey, shall we? The Carolina Panthers suffered a brutal 42-13 loss at New England yesterday. Bryce Young was 18 of 30 for 150 yards and a touchdown, with the majority of Carolina's 129 rushing yards coming after the game was out of hand. Patriots quarterback Drake May completed 14 of 17 passes for 203 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win. Here's the new AP Top 25 poll. The Buckeyes held on to their number 1 spot. Oregon moved up to 2. Miami is number 3 ahead of Ole Miss, who jumped 13 spots after their win over LSU. Oklahoma moves to number 5, with Texas A&M, Penn State, Indiana, Texas, and Alabama rounding out the top 10. Chase Elliott captured the checkered flag at Kansas yesterday, punching his ticket to the NASCAR playoffs. A round of 8. Elliott started the second overtime restart in 8th place, but outpaced everyone in the final 2 laps to steal a win from Denny Hamlin by less than a second.
Up to the minute upstate traffic. Downtown Greenville traffic is moderate to heavy. Plan on extra time around Rutherford Road and West Stone. Also Rutherford around Academy. And there's a wreck, Academy at Church. Spartanburg traffic is flowing good everywhere. In between, I-85 has its usual issues. Southbound from Aviation Parkway and northbound from 385, both headed through Pelham. From the News Talk, 98.9 WORT.
The final hour of the Rob Brown Show starts now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. Be a part of the radio program at 844-326-3663, 844-FANFONE. You can text that number. That is the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, 844-326-3663. You can call that number and get on the radio program if you would like to do so. You can also shoot me a tweet at the Rob Brown Show, at the Rob Brown Show. You can tweet Lonzo at Lonzo Onward. You can get at everybody up in here at the Fan Upstate on Twitter, at the Fan Upstate, if you want to get at us in that direction. If you got something a little bit more long format that you would like to bring to the show but do not want to call in, my email is always open for you as well. The email address, of course, is rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. Rob.brown at thefanupstate.com. If you'd like to get at us in that direction, we would certainly love to have you. We are all over the map. I know that this is devastating news to many, if not most of you, but no Taylor Swift for the Super Bowl halftime show this year. The NFL announced yesterday that Bad Bunny will be your halftime entertainer for this year. Okay, cool. I mean, I get it. He's the most streamed musical artist in the world right now. The dude has been on an absolute global takeover over the past couple of years. He has been not just in movies, but he's been in a couple, and he's been honestly pretty good. He was in Happy Gilmore too, and I got to tell you, of all of the cameos, like not only did he have the most screen time, but I'm like, this dude can act a little bit.
That wasn't a cameo. That was co-star.
Yeah, he had a role.
Yeah, it was a co-star. And Bullet Train, I don't know if you've seen Bullet Train. He was excellent in Bullet Train, and it took a good portion of the movie before I realized that was him.
Yeah, like he's good. And then, of course, on top of that, for nerds like me and Lonzo, had a damn good run through WWE for a hot minute there too. Like one of a very short list of celebrities that did not just get into a match. Like he was in a match. He was in a wrestling match. It was an entertaining, good wrestling match down in Puerto Rico that like he was one of a few guys that got into a ring and within a handful of minutes, you forgot that he was a celebrity. Like he was a wrestler in that match.
Sure, but this is just me speculating, but I would think that a certain demographic of the audience, meaning people over 50, are going to be like, I don't understand what he's saying.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're just going to go, make some more snacks and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like the Super Bowl.
By the way, I don't understand what he's saying either, but he's entertaining.
Oh, I mean, he raps in Spanish. So sings and raps in Spanish. And I suspect there will be a couple of songs that he'll do in English as well. I'll basically.
And he can dance, and he puts on a pretty good show from what I've seen in where he has appeared in different places.
Yeah.
Would you go to a Bad Bunny concert?
Yeah, no, I absolutely would. I absolutely would. From what I understand, the guy puts on a hell of an entertaining show. And while I don't speak much Spanish, as the last Spanish that I took was, and this is not a made-up name, Mr. Rogers in my 11th grade high school class. And then I did like 3 weeks on Duolingo a couple of years back. And then I went, unfortunately, I think I have passed the point where I can create new neurological pathways at a level you need to learn a new language.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I think you would stand out at a Bad Bunny concert because, I mean, I haven't seen your moves, but I think if you don't dance really good, go into one of those, you kind of stand out. Just guessing.
First off, there is a reason that Rob Brown claims I've never lost a wedding reception. I am undefeated at wedding receptions. If Rob Brown, and I don't and will never again, but when Rob Brown was a young and single man, Rob Brown did not have any problems getting attention at wedding receptions.
Well, you can get just as much attention being a bad dancer as you can being a good dancer.
I do not disagree.
I'm not saying that you were a bad dancer.
Because I wasn't.
Yeah, okay. All right. I mean,
Your boy's got moves is all I'm saying. I would not stand out at a Bad Bunny show for the wrong reasons. I would stand out as, why are you here, you 40-year-old guy?
All right, let's see him.
But it's not for the grooves. No. No, you're not getting it for free.
No, that's the kind of stuff you put on me all the time, put me on the spot. And
you're not getting it for free at 7:06 in the morning live streaming to the internet.
It's 9:06, dude. He said 7:06.
It's all the same until 2 in the afternoon.
Okay, all right. Admittedly, I must have picked a slower one because I don't know.
No, I mean he sings like he doesn't just rap. He sings too. I will say, first and foremost, Rob Brown is.
I'm guessing this is arable because I don't know.
I mean, good news for me is it's on you if it's not.
Yeah, that's true.
I will say, I am drawn to rhythmic music, Zydeco music. Big Latin music guy. I love Latin music. Caribbean music is a top flight genre for me. I went like 2 weeks ago. The lady and I
probably should have faded that. So just cut it.
That's all right. It worked.
Because I wanted to jump to another track and
2 weeks ago, I went home and asked the lady friend, I'm like, what do you want for dinner? And she's like, I don't know why. And I said, I'd like to go get Mexican. And what I did not tell her is that the Mexican restaurant I picked exclusively because they had a live mariachi band that night. And I love mariachi music. I love rhythmic music. And I will say, Bad Bunny's tunes are catchy, if nothing else.
Well, I see some collabs with Drake and Cardi B. I didn't want to grab those because I don't know if those are clean or not. So
for the record, you don't know if this one's clean or not.
I don't. But I'm going for it. This one is a little more upbeat. There you go. There it is. If you're watching on the stream right now, you can see why Rob would be okay at a Bad Bunny concert. And with the mustache, you might fit in a little bit more.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
Bad Bunny
got some Eddie Guerrero vibes over there.
Bad Bunny catching the halftime show at the Super Bowl this year. Raj gave us a little teaser that it was going to be T-Swizzle, but it is not. Now, I'm going to call it now. We get a T-Swizzle cameo. We get a Bad Bunny T-Swizzle cameo, and I'm excited to see if that happens. We'll play out. All right, I got a couple of things that I want to get to before we get up out of here. Can I float a theory to you real quick? The Ryder Cup was this weekend. Friday, we got our asses kicked twice. Saturday, we got our asses kicked twice. Then Sunday rolled around. And when the Ryder Cup started on Sunday, I had the Ryder Cup relegated on my 6 screens that I have active on Football Sunday in the Bro Cave. I had the Ryder Cup relegated to the tablet, the smallest screen in the room. And I kept it there because while the Americans were getting every square inch of booty handed to them on Sunday, I really like I love the golfers on Team Europe. Tommy Fleetwood was spectacular. Rory McIlroy is one of my favorite golfers of all time. Like, Rory winning the Masters this year was a top all-time golf moment for me. For him to get that proverbial monkey off the back, like, I was as emotional as golf has ever made me watching Rory put on the green jacket. It was spectacular. At the same time, I go into that thing red, white, and dyed true blue, wanting Team USA to get the win, but we were getting it handed to us. So, like, whatever. It's on the little screen. I had the audio on very low. Anytime that announcer bro was like, all right, let's go to 17 because John Rahm just hit a stellar shot, like, I want to see it. I love good golfers playing good golf. And then all of a sudden, the Americans started fighting back, but Team Europe ultimately able to get the win. So I was driving around yesterday afternoon, well after it was over, early evening, well after it was over. And because I had it on in the car Sunday morning, when I got back into the car, I was listening to the PGA Tour channel on Sirius XM because they were doing live coverage of and from the Ryder Cup. And they had on a panel of old pros and golf analysts who were just breaking down the Ryder Cup from 1,000 different angles, which the Ryder Cup, as mentioned, is my favorite golf event. I like it more than I like them. I love the Masters, but I like it more than I like the Masters, more than I like the U.S. Open. It is my favorite event in golf. And part of the reason why is twofold. Number one, I think the environment, even when the environment goes too far, even when it gets taken too far, it's still an incredible environment. It's a college football environment wrapped around a golf tournament. And the other reason I love it is the golfers are just playing for pride in the shirt and to win this event. That's a career mark for these guys. As we pointed out last Friday, Team Europe does not get paid for this event. There is no prize money for this event. You do not get paid for winning. There is no prize money. The American golfers get a stipend for playing, but every member of Team USA agreed to donate their stipend to their favorite charity, meaning not a golfer that played this weekend took $1 away from it for the event. They might have gotten paid by their sponsors or whatever. But if you look at the uniforms, none of these guys had sponsors on their chest. It was just the American flag or just the European flag. None of these guys were thanking their sponsors in their post-round pressers or anything like that. It's an event they just want to win. And so I was listening to one of the analysts talk about the fact that Team Europe winning the Ryder Cup for the guys on Team Europe, many of them, and Sergio Garcia was the one that off the top of my head I remember. A few years ago, and I believe this was before Sergio won his first green jacket, Sergio said, I would rather win the Ryder Cup than win the Masters. That's how much that event means to me. In Europe, the Ryder Cup is viewed the way that we view the Masters. Like the Masters is big for European golfers. That is why, and Rory pointed this out last week, every international golfer that wants to go to play golf wants to play in the United States. But they also want to, as we all do, be proud of their country and be proud of where they came from. And so representing Team Europe in the Ryder Cup is the best way for them to do that. And my thought is this. Outside of the Olympics, and honestly, even to some degree within the Olympics, we as Americans, we don't care about international sports. Like we don't. Because, and the evidence for that for me is the Olympics themselves. Number one, the Winter Olympics are in February. The Winter Olympics will do like 60% of the TV ratings that the Summer Olympics do. Why? Because we don't care. We'll watch, and like if there's, if we find a Shaun White.
I was going to say, I'm watching snowboarding.
Yeah. If we find a Shaun White will dominate, and
the long jump makes me nervous, so I can't.
The skiing one?
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
It's no.
Even as a self-proclaimed adrenaline junkie, even I'm like, nah, that's enough. I'm good.
I don't want to see someone die, and that's just.
Yeah.
I mean,
but the point is, we don't care about international sports, and even in the Olympics, we only care when either A, it's our sport, basketball, or we care if we are dominating at it, right? Like Michael Phelps, or
by the way, you forget curling. I mean, we got to.
Okay, we love curling, but that's a different story.
We got to watch curling.
Yeah, for sure. Michael Phelps, Katie Ledecky, the perfect example. Katie Ledecky at the last Summer Olympics was as dominant as Michael Phelps. How many of you have watched a single swimming event outside of the Olympics unless like your kid is on a swim team, right? How many of you? How many of you can tell me right now where Clemson or South Carolina swimming and diving is ranked nationally? Literally none of you.
Are you sure they have swimming
Nope.
and diving teams?
I'm not.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
I'm not,
All right.
because even if I did care about swimming and diving, which I'm not saying I don't, but I'm like you. I care about it during the Olympics. When Katie Ledecky is on, I will make the argument that Katie Ledecky should be celebrated the way that we celebrate Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, because that's how dominant she's been. The way we celebrated Michael Phelps. But we will for like 2 weeks up to the Olympics, through the Olympics, and then the like 2-week victory parade after the Olympics. And then we won't think about Katie Ledecky or whoever's next. Right now, the Winter Olympics are in February upcoming. Name me non-hockey. Name me any athlete that will be participating in the Winter Olympics. Just any. Figure skater, snowboarder, skier, uphill, downhill, slalom, jump, long, whatever. Just name me any athlete from the United States that will be participating in the Olympic Games in the winter.
See, here's
that's
the problem
not a
with
hockey
this,
player.
Rob Brown. I don't think you're looking at this the right way. It's not about individuals. It's about a country. And so we don't need to know the individual names of these athletes until the actual games. We know that our country is going there to compete. And so therefore we don't need to know their names right now.
I will remind you of that the next time you do a Patrick Mahomes segment. I'll go, whoa, I don't care about Patrick Mahomes. It's a team sport.
We're talking about the Olympics.
But that's my point is,
we're talking about
but that is my point, is that the attitude that we have towards our sports versus
who's the left guard on the New Orleans Saints?
Cesar Ruiz right now, but he's banged up and
look
hurt.
Look at you. Okay. All right. That's
but
really
I'm not
cool.
the example.
That's what's really cool. Who's the left tackle on the Arizona Cardinals?
I don't know. But that's also not my team. You asked me about my team, I'll give you the answer. And Team USA is my team. No, I'm openly acknowledging that I'm also in the camp, because I don't know outside of Team USA hockey. I don't know any of the athletes that are going to be competing in the Olympics. But the point here is this. If we do not have the love and adoration of international sports the way that the rest of the world does, it makes sense that we are, as the rest of the world catches up, losing our stranglehold on being the most dominant athletic country in the world. Like we still are, but it's not by the gulf that it used to be. Like the world's catching us. They're catching us in basketball. They've caught us and surpassed us in most other sports. Certainly they have, obviously, in golf. Is that something that can be changed? I don't think it is, because I think we have spent so many years and years and years creating this culture where championships are the only thing that matters. Not the love of the game, not the passion for the game, not the love of the sport. It's only about winning. Whereas the rest of the world has a love of the sport. The guys in Europe came for the love of the game of golf and then elevated that to prove it, we want the Ryder Cup. We don't love it. And therefore the guys that are used to going out there and trying to win individual tournaments don't have a team mindset to go win the Ryder Cup, which is why Europe's won 11 of 15. And I think we're going to start seeing that expand into the Olympics. When our medal count, other countries are going to start chipping away. There will be an Olympics very soon where we are not on the top 3 in the medal count because of that mentality. And I don't know that it can be changed. I don't know if any of you care or want to. Back after this, more football on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
The Rich Eisen Show, today at noon.
All right, Tiger Truther, I have texted him, and I have his response. This was to a question earlier in the show about Dallas tying last night. And if Cole is okay, the fan of Dallas is okay with the tie.
For tonight, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, low near 65.
Since I don't know if we're going to talk about this on the air, I will give you the answer. No, never. Might as well not even play the game. Absolutely pointless.
And now, the Daily
Sorry, quote, unquote.
Powered by Ingles. Low prices, love the savings.
Today, the ACC brass gathers in Charlotte for a meeting that could shape the league's future football
Probably a
slate.
mistake,
One
Cole,
thing's
but
already
no,
decided.
I
Every
was
school
asked to
will play
redate
10
something.
Power 4 opponents each year. The debate
But
is
never
how to
have
get there.
listened to
On
it.
one side is the familiar
sure I'll
8+2 model, 8 ACC games plus 2 non-league power matchups. That setup gives schools
It's
like
like
Clemson,
2,
Florida
4,
State, Georgia
6,
Tech,
Right there, dude.
12,
to protect long-standing
only
rivalries.
15.
is they lost too much talent to be good. The counter to the narrative is, yeah, but Mike Norvell
Dallas-
has built
James,
three
Dallas
consecutive
isn't
real
that
good
bad.
rosters out of the pool.
Like, yes,
How
the
many
loss of Michael
people
Parsons is a
last year
blow. I don't
called
care what
Florida
anybody
State
says,
to
but
be
they're not a
playoff
bad
team?
team. But
None
they're
of us
never a
did. None of
regular
us did.
season bad team. That's the point.
Shut up, Lonzo. Who asked you?
They always blow it in the
It's
post.
news. Hit play. The Rob Brown Show. Now morning 6 to 10 on The Fan.
The Fan Upstate.
Listen on the Odyssey app. Search The Fan Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It is The Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. 844-326-3663 is the number to be a part of the show this AM. The MLB postseason bracket is set and filled in. We talked a little bit about it earlier this morning. The bracket fills out this way. Over in the American League, the 1 seed belongs to the Toronto Blue Jays, a team that has, over the past couple of years, continued to get closer and closer and closer, just unable to get the job done. This year, they finally get the job done. They claim the AL East and the 1 seed. The ALCS runs through Toronto. The Seattle Mariners out of the AL West claimed the division about a week and a half ago. They claimed the 2 seed officially over the weekend. The Guardians of Cleveland end up winning the AL Central. They were 15 and a half games back of the Detroit Tigers a month and a half ago. They storm and get some help because Detroit lost like 12 out of 14 down the stretch. It bumped Detroit down to the 6th seed. They will get Cleveland in the wild card round. 3 games on the road at Seatown. The winner of that takes on Seattle in round number 2. The divisional round. The Yankees could not catch the Blue Jays, and with a record behind the Guardians, they will take the 4 seed out of the AL East. The 5 seed belongs to the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox will travel to New York. The AL East rivalry renewed once again in the wild card round. Over in the National League, the Brew Crew, the best record in baseball, get the number 1 overall seed. The Phillies, by way of being NL East champions, get the 2 seed. The Reds and Dodgers. The Dodgers win the NL West. They claim the 3 seed. They will get the lowest seeded wild card. That is the Cincinnati Reds, who did lose yesterday. It was a win and in, or win and a Mets, or loss and a Mets loss would get them in. The Mets have one of the most spectacular implosions ever and missed the playoffs. The Reds earn the 6th seed. They get the Dodgers. The winners travel to Philly in the divisional round. The Padres and the Cubs are the 4-5 matchup. The Cubs have the higher seed. They will host San Diego in the 3-game set in Chicago. The winner of that will take on the Brewers. So there's your bracket, but there is another discussion that I wanted to have, and that is about the Major League Baseball MVP award. Now, I do not particularly care all that much about Cal Raleigh versus Aaron Judge as an individual race. My vote is for Cal Raleigh, the catcher for the Seattle Mariners. The man played baseball at an all-star level. The man hit 60 home runs. The guy was able to do things that very few other catchers, actually in some cases, no other catchers, have been able to do. And on top of that, a Seattle Mariners team that over the past couple of years has just gotten close but never quite been able to do it. They did make some trade deadline moves, like going and picking up Robbie Naylor. That was a great pickup because you were able to shield Cal Raleigh in the lineup, much as the Yankees have done in the past couple of years, and going and finding sluggers so that Aaron Judge could not be walked intentionally 10,000 times a season. They put some other sluggers on the team so that in clutch spots, you had to pitch to Cal Raleigh, and Cal Raleigh could hit a bunch of big dongs. Well, I think Cal Raleigh should be the AL MVP. It looks like Aaron Judge is going to win it. Now, I want to play you 2 clips, both featuring Jeff Passan. And I like Jeff Passan a lot as a baseball guy. I liked him already. Jeff Passan during the All-Star game was spectacular because it turns out Jeff Passan is a lot more bro than I ever gave him credit for. Passan's one of those guys that, while you should not judge a book by its metaphorical cover, I've always looked at Passan and been like, you're the reason that people make fun of baseball nerds. Turns out he's kind of a bro. Like, he was getting into it with fans and bleep talking and whatnot. It was great. Anyway, Passan was on with Dan Patrick the other day, and they were talking about the AL MVP, and they had this discussion.
I said a couple of weeks ago, if Cal Raleigh hit 60 and they won the division, that he was going to win the MVP. Being a catcher and a better than average catcher, you win that division and you're hitting 60 home runs. Well, check. Is he going to win the MVP?
I don't know. I let's put it this way. I'm glad that I'm not voting for MVP this year because there's such great cases to be made for both Cal Raleigh and for Aaron Judge. And let me turn this on you since you are in the clear pro Raleigh camp. Aaron Judge's OPS right now is 175 points higher than Cal Raleigh's. Are you telling me that because Cal Raleigh has a home run total that ends in a round number, and that because Cal Raleigh happens to play with really good guys surrounding him and a team that went out and got Josh Naylor and Geno Suarez at the deadline that helped push them toward that division title, are you telling me all that makes up, along with the defensive elements, for that 175-point gap, which is real, which is significant, and which is enormous?
Yes. He's moving past Mickey Mantle as a switch hitter. He's hitting 60 home runs, and he's doing it at the catcher position. That never happens. I mean,
no, it never has happened.
And it won't happen again. He'll hit 38 next year.
So do you think you're suffering from Aaron Judge fatigue?
So there was two things out of that conversation that stood out to me. The first is, are we suffering from Aaron Judge fatigue? Now, I have said for a very long time, I do not think voter fatigue should be considered ever. I do not think anyone with a vote for any individual award should ever lean on that guy has won it enough or too many times or back to back to back or whatever. It shouldn't be. The most valuable player award should go to the most valuable player. And if Nikola Jokic wins it 9 times in a row, then he wins it 9 times in a row. Congratulations to the Denver Nuggets for finding a dog. If Aaron Judge or Cal Raleigh or anybody else wins it 9 times in a row, then congratulations to the New York Yankees or the Seattle Mariners or whoever else for finding a dog. Voter fatigue should not matter. The most valuable player is the most valuable player, whether they have won it 1 time or 77 consecutive times. It should go to that guy. But there's a second half of that conversation that's not about voter fatigue. It is about the concept of, is it best player or is it most valuable player? Because I do not think, scratch that, I know that those two words are not the same thing. If you were wandering through a desert for a couple of days, and you come across a podium in the middle of the desert. And on that podium, on the left, is a stack of gold bars. And on the right is a stack of bottles of water. One of those things is clearly and evidently way more valuable than the other. But which one of those things in that moment is more valuable to you?
Yeah, I'm looking for Mel Brooks, but that's just me.
Man, we ain't found nothing.
I was thinking we're going to need a bleep load of dimes, but anyway.
The water is obviously in that moment to you in that situation, the water is more valuable. In my opinion, Cal Raleigh is the stack of bottles of water and Aaron Judge is the stack of gold bars. In most situations, yes, the stack of gold bars is very valuable. If I was to walk out in the parking lot today and on the left side of my car is a case of bottled water somebody left, and on the right side of my car is a gold bar, which of those two things am I picking up first? I am picking up the gold bar because that's more valuable.
He's also taking a bottle of water.
Yes, I am.
Because you're so shocked you found a bar of gold that you need a drink.
Stay hydrated, homies, is all I'm saying. But the gold bar is getting picked up because it's more valuable. But if I'm in the middle of the desert or if I'm stranded out in the middle of nowhere and on the left is a gas tank and on the right's a gold bar and I got to pick one, I'm going to take the gas tank because that's going to get me somewhere where, okay, I'll figure out how to make up the lost value in gold later on, but I got to get somewhere to do it. Cal Raleigh is the bottle of water in the desert. Aaron Judge is the gold bar in the desert. Here's what I mean by that. Aaron Judge is probably a better baseball player than Cal Raleigh is. But what Cal Raleigh did and does for the Seattle Mariners is more valuable. If I was to take both of those guys off of their teams, the Yankees would still be a very good baseball team. They would, I would think, probably still be a playoff team. I think it is very possible that if I took the Yankees, yeah, they might drop from the 4 seed down to the 6 seed. Maybe they're the last team in. Maybe they just barely get bumped out. But without Aaron Judge, I still think they're a playoff team. Without Cal Raleigh, Seattle's not a playoff team. New York might drop from the 4 to the 6 seed, maybe 4 to out. Seattle would drop from 2 to out, even with the moves they made. I think we have lost the plot on what the definition of the word valuable is. If we want to have another award for who is the best player, then great, have a best player award. But that's not what MVP is. It is not the MVP, the most bestest player. It's most valuable. And what Cal Raleigh did for the Mariners this year was infinitely more valuable than what Aaron Judge did for the Yankees this year. He was very valuable, but without him, they would have still been a very good team. I don't think Seattle's anywhere without him. And we can translate this to basketball too. It is not just that there are better players who put up better numbers than Nikola Jokic. It's, what are the Nuggets without Nikola Jokic? We had a Nuggets guy on Bet for the Cycle a number of months ago, and we were having this conversation then. And he said, if you take Nikola Jokic off this team, they're a 20-win basketball team. What are they with him? A playoff team. A playoff team that was a threat. Without him, 20 wins, tops. And I agree with that. If you take Kyle Raleigh off the Mariners, they don't make the playoffs. You leave them on the Mariners, they're the 2 seed. You take Aaron Judge off the Yankees, they're not the 4 seed, but they're probably the 6 seed or they're the first team out. The MVP is most valuable, not best. So even if the numbers are better, what Cal Raleigh did for the Mariners is more value than what Aaron Judge did. I almost said Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers played good football this weekend. We should talk some NFL. We will when we come back. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. Rob Alonzo and you, the Fan Upstate.
Opinions, analysis, and entertainment all rolled into one sports talk show. This is the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
I'm Chuck Sanders here.
Give me just a second, guys. I got to knock something out real quick. Don't go anywhere, please.
Checkers flag.
It is the Rob Brown Show here on the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, Lonzo, and you. 844-326-3663. The number. Let's look at the National Football League here for just a minute. 2 Monday night games on tap for this evening. The New York Football Jets will be on the road down in Coral Gables. The Miami Dolphins and New York Jets, both 0-3. One of them will get win number. Well, maybe not. We had a tie last night. We'll see if it happens again, but one of them likely to get win numero uno this evening. I have not seen great one. I looked it up earlier. I have not seen whether Justin Fields is a go tonight or not. It may be a game time decision. We will find out. The Bengals and the Broncos underway this evening at 8:15 p.m. That one's going to be up in the Mile High City. as the Bengals and the Broncos get it.
I see a title from ESPN 1 day ago. Jets get Fields back from concussion to face Fins.
Good.
So,
Good. I am, again, like, let's not pretend Justin
Sports
Fields.
Illustrated saying it also. So, yeah, he's playing tonight.
Let's not pretend that Justin Fields ain't playing pretty good football for the New York Football Jets, as somebody predicted. All right, let's talk about some of the teams, some of the games that went down yesterday. Steelers 24-21 over the Vikings yesterday. Look, man, Carson Wentz, 350 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, he is very much, despite the L, in the running for a TMFINR award that we will hand out tomorrow. That being said, this Steelers team is to me, it's very reminiscent of some of the Big Ben teams in that they are going to run the football. That, like, you look at this team and you think that it is one thing, but statistically, it's not. Like Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, Lonzo predicted that this is the reason. I think you picked them to win this division.
I did. Also, I keep seeing a video, and I haven't watched the video of Aaron Rodgers hitting the smelling salts and then throwing a long bomb to, I believe, DK Metcalf.
Yeah, who was it? There was one last week too, where, gosh, what kicker was it? One of the kickers stepped in to hit like a 55-yarder to either win it or go to OT or something, and dude ran onto the field, absolutely ripping a line of smelling salts, like running towards the field goal spot, and he just threw it on the ground, and the camera zoomed in on the face, and he was just like, ah! It's like, oh, that's going to be good from 80. Oh, you know what I did want to bring up?
So yesterday, the outdoor record was set for a field goal.
Yeah, yes, it was. 65.
Yeah.
65 yards yesterday. I had this question. I was talking about this last night. Joey B and I were texting during the Dallas Green Bay game last night. When, I don't know, it was like the third 50-yard field goal in that game got kicked. And we were talking about the fact that Jason Aubrey for Dallas, who, I mean, what a hell of a story this guy is. Like, he wasn't even in soccer. He was a pro soccer player who transitioned to the NFL after his soccer career was over. The story was his wife saw somebody kicking a field goal from like 40 yards, and they were talking about how great of a kick it was. And she was like, "Do you think you could hit that?" And he's like, "I don't know. Let's try it out." Never kicked. He's like, "I don't know. I'll try it out." He tried. Turns out he's a hell of a kicker, and now he's out there banging 60s like through consistently. And you can see the impact that it has had, because Dallas, once they get to the 50-yard line, they can play a little bit more free, because with Brandon Aubrey as their kicker, like, if they get to midfield, points are on the board. Like, 3 points are guaranteed if you can get to the 50. Anything past that is icing, right? And then we were talking about the fact that late in the game, the Packers had an opportunity to kick it to go to overtime, and then another kick from McManus to tie the game as OT expired, which Green Bay, oh my God, they almost flubbed that up. Do you see the end of that game? Like 17 seconds left, and they're just taking their time setting up. Jordan Love throws a laser to the back of the end zone, and fortunately for him, the ball spiked because he had floated that thing. Time runs up, Dallas wins. Like, that was terrible clock management from Green Bay. Whatever, they get the tie. But I had this conversation with Joey B. Right now, this year, great one. If I had to throw at you, just stab in the dark, and if you overshoot it, great. If you undershoot it, great. Just out of curiosity, what percentage of 50-plus yard field goals have been good in the NFL this year so far?
Wow. I know there have been a lot taken. There's also been a lot of teams going for it on fourth down, which would make me think there are less kicks. I'm going to go 68%.
You're very close. 75% of 50-yard field goals are good. Now, I used to work with a young man who I have a lot of respect and admiration for, except for the take of, we should get rid of kicking in football. No more field goals. Take field goals off. In fact, get rid of kickoffs. Start the ball on 35. We should never kick another football. And I disagree with that take. I think field goals are a strategical, important part of the game. And I think being able to find a kicker like Brandon Aubrey, who can bang through a 60-yarder with regularity, should be rewarded for football teams. If you put the time, energy, effort into finding a kicker and growing and developing a kicker to be that reliable, your reward should be you have a kicker who is that reliable. However, I don't do this often. Like, oh, we should make this big, sweeping, dramatic change to the game. Because 99% of the time, I don't think that. I think the games are the games. And after this much time, they are what they are for a reason. Like even the dynamic kickoff. I was like, all right, we can try it. Turns out dynamic kickoff's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm kind of enjoying it. Yeah.
It's pretty good, especially with the new one where, if you land it in the landing zone and it's a touchback, it's to the 20. But if you don't land it in the landing zone, it's out to the 35, right? Like I like it because I saw something that's like 85% of kickoffs are being returned. It's an important part of the game now.
And now the knuckleball kick is being introduced into football.
Yeah, I called that shot after week 1. I'm like, somebody at some point is going to find a kicker who can kick it on a laser line, knuckleball style that hits at the 10, and it makes running backs, it makes returners play shortstop. You have to field that ball because remember, if it hits in the landing zone and then goes for a touchback, now you get it at the 20. So like you've got to play shortstop, and that adds time to the collection of the football and the return, whatever. I like the dynamic kickoff rule. It's a sweeping shift to the game that I was relatively apprehensive about, but I think it's been a great ad. I don't like sweeping changes to the game. I'm fine if you want to try out gradual changes, but I would like to make a sweeping change. So I think we need to narrow the goalposts down some. I'm not saying like make it arena league level where it's like arms width wide. I'm saying maybe we take it in like a foot on both sides. Like let's say, while I think kicking is still an important part of the game, and I think teams should be rewarded for finding and growing kickers and giving them the confidence to step up and make that boot in big spots. If we are at a point where 50-plus yard field goals are being hit at 75%, which is what they are being hit at right now, it kind of almost defeats the purpose to some point. Right?
Yeah, but
or am I overreacting?
Every time we as fans get something cool that starts happening, immediately it has to be tweaked.
But I guess my question is, are 50-yard field goals at this point, they're almost not dramatic. Like now drama is only attached when there's a 6 out front of it.
See, I disagree. I think they are still dramatic because there are a lot of teams don't have a good kicker. They don't have a kicker who can hit it from 25, let alone 60.
I got Carolina out here mixing extra points.
I mean, there's like 4 or 5 probably kickers who could do all that, and the rest of them are a rotation of jobs. They get let go here and they get picked up there.
It's not unfair. Now, I would also point out, not that I'm saying this about the great one, obviously, but I suspect when you got a Harrison Butker back there, although Harrison's numbers are trending down, he's struggling right now.
He's missed extra points. He missed one yesterday. So I mean.
That's fair. When you have a great kicker, like if you're Dallas, you're probably like, no, we're great. Leave everything as is. But I don't know. It feels to me like when you are at a point where 3 out of every 4 50-yarders are almost like it's almost granted now. And by the way, it's not like that number is going to decrease, right? Like it's not like we're going to see in a year or two, back in 2025, 75-yarders were being, 50-plus yarders were being hit at 75%. Now it's like next year it's going to be 79%. And at some point, 50-yarders are going to be standard. They're going to be standard operating procedure. And I guess the way I look at it, like the best way to put it is, I don't think that NFL teams should be repeatedly given an award for getting to midfield, right? Like I think it should be where if you get to midfield, it should be a 50-50 shot that you hit a field goal here. I think if you get to midfield and you got a 4th and shy, it should have to be a decision. If I got Brandon Aubrey and I'm on the 47 going in, it's a no-brainer I'm kicking that field goal. Like if he misses, it's a shock. Whereas it used to be, if you lined up for a 50-yarder, if he hit it, it was a shock. Now it's like, oh, damn, somebody missed a 52-yarder. What a shock. Like, you should not, to me, it should not be a reward for getting to midfield, especially when the average starting position is now the 35-yard line. You were talking off of a touchback or off of an average return, the average returns to like the 30, I think it's 32 and a half now. You need effectively 18 yards to get into field goal position for a lot. I'm not going to say all, but a lot of teams. McManus for Green Bay, a 50-yarder is almost a layup for him. It's a chip shot at this point. I don't think the Packers should get rewarded with an almost guarantee for going 18 yards off the kickoff. Getting to midway should be like now it's 50-50. You need to get to the 40 or the 35 going in before it's that. Narrow the goalpost by a foot on both sides, and let's make kicking great again.
Yeah, I don't think a foot will make that much of a difference.
Oh, we've seen a lot that have just been over the crossbar and still count. Are we doing the thing?
Yeah, we can go a little bit later.
Oh, okay.
That's why. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, we can do, well, you know what? Fine. Whatever.
No, I will extrapolate at length.
It's okay. There's some things we can expound upon here. All right. The first thing that's Xing is Robert Saleh.
Robert Saleh Xing because after the game yesterday between his squad and the Jacksonville Jaguars, he and Liam Cohen, Duval, had a little bit of a dust up on the field. The Jags, by the way, who are good, you're welcome, and I told you so. Now 3-1 with the win over the 49ers, handing them their first loss of the year.
They're better than what I thought. I don't know about good yet.
They're 3-1, dog.
Yeah, we'll see.
Anyway, something got said. We don't know what it was because Liam Cohen, Duval, after the game was asked, hey, you and Robert Saleh exchanged some words on the field. What got said? And he said, yeah, we're going to leave that one be.
Well,
we'll leave that
I will
between
tell
you
you,
and I.
I've seen a couple of posts where Liam Cohen said, keep my name out your mouth. This was before all that.
Keep my mother name out your mother mouth, son.
Yeah, so...
But what, like, I need to know what Robert Saleh said. I'm not drama guy.
Who you got? Who you got? I mean, Robert Saleh looks pretty mean, but I don't know.
The gut reaction is Saleh because he's like, he's an in shape dude, right? Like and he's got a little bit of that anger. I think you saw that when he was coaching the Jets, a little bit of an anger issue. Liam Cohen strikes me as your nerdy friend that has that psycho mode that you don't know about it until he's engaged it.
And is also secretly a black belt.
Yeah. Like he
and
strikes me.
You never see it till it actually uses it.
He strikes me as that dude that when like it starts to go down, you're like, hey, Liam, why don't you get behind me? And then he's like, no, dog, turns out I'm a triple-double secret platinum black belt at Taekwondo. I hope he tries me, dog. Keep my name out your mouth, son. I really want to know what Robert said because it didn't start that way. Like they were walking by, everything was fine. And then Liam Cohen doubled back. And I was like, oh.
No, first of all, Saleh, they slowed the video down, went to shake his hand, and Cohen just walked past.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did see that.
He brushed him. Didn't do it. Like, I ain't shaking your hand.
I want to know what's up.
And also, you're like an assistant coach. Who cares? I mean, it's not like he brushed the head coach. It was the assistant coach.
I'm gonna say this. For Mr. Duval. That was the most Duval moment I've seen out of Liam Cohen so far. Y'all, I tried to get you in on the Jags before the season started. By the way, you know which quarterback has the most dropped passes by wide receivers in the NFL so far? Spencer Rattler. You know who's number 2? Trevor Lawrence.
All right. The next thing that's Xing is Braun Strowman.
I got nothing.
Braun Strowman.
Did he show back up?
In talks to be the next Jason Voorhees.
Damn, cool. Okay. You know, I had to spin that around the head. In my head, I had to put the mask on him. I had to put the mask on him in my head, but now I got a mask on him. Okay. Like, I could go with actually genuinely terrifying Jason. Jason was always that dude that, like, as long as you can run and not fall, you should be okay. This Jason, it's like, no, you better get out the damn country.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that if he indeed does.
Yeah,
sign that deal.
I'm not a slasher horror movie guy. I would go find a scene or two of that.
Yeah, me too.
That's
all
a
right.
big son of a gun.
And Jason, my favorite slasher of all time. We all have one. The next thing that's Xing is Skylar Thompson.
Dude, the WNBA has been absolutely lit.
No.
Oh, no. Sorry. I got Skylar Diggins in my head.
Yeah.
I got Sky Diggins in my head because the WNBA playoffs have been absolutely lit. What did
all right, so Skylar Thompson, backup quarterback.
Oh, the guy got jumped in Ireland.
Yeah, he got jumped in Dublin.
That's right. I did laugh at that because somebody said on Twitter, after that game, and I don't remember what the whole playoff of it was, but Carson Wentz got abused in that game. He got sacked 6 times for 48 yards. Somebody put on Twitter, Skylar Thompson, the second most abused quarterback in Ireland this weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty good joke.
All right.
Pretty good joke.
The next thing that's axing is John Harbaugh.
Dude. The Ravens are bad at football now. And it's not just you lost to the Chiefs. That's one thing. You got dominated by the Chiefs. More importantly, you have the worst defense in the NFL. Granted, 4 starters are out when that game started, and then you lost either 2 or 3 more in that game, but you have the worst defense in the NFL right now, and the offense just is not clicking. Lamar left with a hamstring injury, assuming it's a hamstring injury.
Yeah, I couldn't see it.
There's a lot of folks in Baltimore.
Not a doctor. So.
I checked out the Baltimore subreddit earlier. A lot of folks think John Harbaugh might be the next coach on the hot seat. Could you, I get it.
You never know.
He's a James Franklin of the NFL. I get it.
All right. And finally, the last thing Xing is Dave Canales.
Not great, Bob. Not great. You have officially, Dave Canales. And I'm not pulling against you. In fact, I'm pulling for you. But even as someone who is pulling for you, I've lost the Dave Canales goodwill. I'm off the bandwagon. If your team, after half an off season, a full off season, and now working our way towards half of another regular season, has no identity, and you don't, your wide receivers can't catch, your quarterback is afraid, your offensive line is overrated, I've lost goodwill. It's got to be better next week, or Canales goes hot seat. Y'all have a great rest of your Monday. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Later.
I don't know.
This is NXT superstar Ricky Saints, and
that would be
to the Rob Brown Show
and
on
new
the Fan Upstate.
NXT
Because, boys and girls,
at Ingles, we're proud
Rob
to
Brown
sponsor
Show
area
bump
athletics
is
at all levels.
real.
Whether we're building
real.
new fields for
The
T-ball,
bump is real.
celebrating
I haven't
Friday night
watched the match yet. I'm
rivalries,
going to watch
televising
today when I go
basketball
home.
games,
From what I've seen,
semi-pro soccer, or
the entire
ball games
PLE
with
was
minor league
pretty good.
partners.
So,
We're here for the fans. No one
for
gets
the
the
record,
dedication to the home team.
I don't even think this is a hot
We've
take.
got all the sports.
NXT is better than main roster
all
right
in
now.
the bag.
NXT is better than the main
Low
roster right now.
prices.
In
Love the
every
city.
capacity, NXT is better than the main roster right now. And with the addition of Stat to the champions ranks, I believe that we are now operating at a 100% clip of professional wrestlers who win a belt within 6 months of doing an interview on the show. I believe we are also on a clip of champs who join the show maintaining for at least 6 months after. The bump is real. I did see that. I know he's been doing it on his YouTube channel.
Dude, I saw the previews. It looks pretty good.
So the question I have, is it like Braun Strowman does healthy eats, or is it like Braun? You remember Man vs. Food?
Man vs. Food still
Is it going to be more
exists.
Man vs. Food?
I think it's more like that.
Because I'm much more inclined to watch that. Like, I tried for a little while when I was really trying to, like, not just lose weight, but, like, actually be healthy instead of just being skinny fat. I went down the rabbit hole of, like, healthy cooking shows. And, dude, like, even their best foods, I'm like, I could see that being good, but I could not see this being the only way that I eat, man. That looks like I would be miserable. Miserable. All right, kids. Thanks for being here. You're all amazing people. I have stuff to do, so we got to jet. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you didn't, come back tomorrow. We'll try all over again. Tell your friends about us. We'd like to get rich and famous. If you appreciate the show, I hate to be that influencer, but do us a favor. Tell your friends about us on social media, because we are gauged by our social media views, and we're at a good number, but it's plateaued. All right, we've hit a stalling point. We need a bump. We need a Rob Brown Show bump for the Rob Brown Show. So if you enjoy the show, tell your friends about us. Tell them to join us in the morning. Get them on in the chat. Get them invested. Let's have some fun. Y'all have a good day. Goodbye.
I think for the first